My name is Sarah Grimwood, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up on the Commission table and plans will be projected through the TV monitor. If you're presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it's time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the Commission, members of the public would have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of any commissioners attending virtually and the current petitioner. Once the Commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will be automatically continued to the June 25th meeting. Please note that the meeting is being recorded. At this time, I would like to ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. So let's start in the room with Nick.
Sure. Nick
Gary.
Pappas and Bill Kameza.
Thanks. And Gary, please.
Online, Gary Kleiman.
Thank you very much. Okay, so did everybody else have a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yeah.
There were a couple of minor things and one or two of them I sent to Karen.
Okay, but we have a quorum, so that's okay, Julia, right?
Mhm.
Yep. Could I have a motion then, please?
I just need to know which ones, so which one was amended and which one is as written.
Karen is checking.
The 23rd.
April 25th.
25th. Okay, thank you.
So I move that we accept the minutes as and as for March 12th, 2025, April 2nd, 2025, and April 23rd as amended.
Second,
So March 12th and April 2nd are as written.
As written.
That's what I thought.
And it's April 25th as amended.
As amended.
April 25th, yeah, as amended.
seconded.
And the vote. Nick?
Aye.
Aye.
Bill, thank you. And Gary?
Aye.
And I'm abstaining because I forgot to review them. Thank you. But it's a pass.
Mhm.
Okay, so oh gosh, I don't have the agenda. Hang on. Forgive me, I need to quickly open the agenda. For the public, I know we have public comment. Let me read my blurb. Okay, so now we have time for public comment, if there are any. As always, public comment is limited to up to 10 minutes, with no more than 2 minutes allocated to any one speaker, and public comment is limited to items that are not on the agenda. Do we have any public comments this evening?
None in the room.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. On what? Anything other than what we have on the agenda. No,
None?
none.
No, okay, thank you. And I'm sorry I'm out of order, but I'm in control now. Okay, so moving on, commissioners' comments. Do we have any comments from commissioners tonight?
Well, I would just say that the Warner's Pond Task Force is closing down its task force assignment. We should be done within a week, I hope, and certainly by the end of the month.
And the last meeting's on Thursday, is that correct? Tomorrow?
We hope it'll be this last meeting, it'll be Thursday.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
And then how will it come back to the NRC and as a report, the final report?
Yeah, we haven't worked through all the details, but as it'll be a written recommendation coming back to the NRC and possibly members making the presentation.
Okay, and just out of interest, Bill, since you're the co-chair of that meeting, will you have to abstain from any NRC comments, or are you acting with both hats?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. I hadn't thought about it yet. I don't know. I suspect I may have to abstain from the NRC's, meeting. I don't know. I don't really know.
Well, you're representing the NRC, so I just wondered if there was anything we had to be cautious of there.
Does anyone, do you?
Julie's
We'll
not
find
worried.
out. We'll find out. We'll
We'll just
get
double check. We've got
Yeah.
time. Okay. Okay, so if there are no more commissioners' comments, then over to Julia, please, for the director's update.
So Bert Comans, our Assistant Natural Resources Director, who was in the position for the past 2.5 years. His last day was on Friday, which is a big disappointment and a loss for the town, but he could not manage the commute from Gloucester with
Yeah,
his
we're all
small
involved.
family, so he made the right decision for his family. But the town manager has placed his position on hold through the end of July. So I am working to hire a wetlands consultant to assist with wetlands filings for 20 hours a week, which will do something to help, but it's gonna be a challenging summer. Especially with the land manager out on military leave.
Yeah,
Through
Yeah.
until September.
So the effect will be to slow down processing of.
We can't. This will be
Right.
all that gets done.
Okay,
So wetlands permitting is their requirements, state and local law.
So,
Is this something to do with the timing of the fiscal year, or why slow this down, or don't you know, or can't you not say?
Well, it's on hold because of the financial condition of the town's resources, the budget. And by the end of July, there will be a better understanding of what the fiscal 27 numbers look like.
Okay,
So there's a chance that the position won't get funded.
so
Uh,
Bill, since you are wearing two hats for the Warner's Pond Committee, I'm not sure exactly what's going to come forward, but it may, I think it's worth sharing with the committee tomorrow that there's not going to be any resource, I would think, until this position gets filled to help with that. So we will have to take that into consideration when yeah. Okay.
So you've probably heard that Walden Pond, they came in front of the commission. They got a permit a few years ago. It was extended for the bathhouse improvements. That work has been underway for the past several months. They had anticipated being open. I think the contractor said absolutely not. So the beach is closed. The main swim beach that is lifeguarded will be closed for the season. The Red Cross Beach will remain open, but it's not a lifeguarded beach. We do anticipate that will place pressure on the White Pond Beach. And so the Recreation Department is taking steps to manage that. I expect it will also have impacts to Sachem's Cove. The Ranger program has already been cut from this budget. So that will also place additional pressures on the police department because we won't have any staff to manage that. So we're doing what we can, but we do anticipate that there's going to be some conflicts.
yeah.
Good news is the drought impacts have been reduced throughout the state. Only the Cape and Islands remain in a drought condition. So that is an improvement with all of our rain every weekend. So
Every Saturday.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Bill reported on the Warner's Pond Task Force. What we anticipate to be their final meeting will be held tomorrow night here and via Zoom. That's it for me. Thank
So
you.
Delia, with the drought conditions being improved, do you think the town will remove its watering restriction or just continue that? It's once a week at the moment, right?
I don't know, but I don't think that restriction would be removed. It is
Yeah.
a once a week and it's a water conservation measure, but
Yeah.
that I'm not sure what the water department's policy is on that.
Okay, thank you.
And that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So moving on, we have two applications to be withdrawn without prejudice. I don't know if we have a DEP file for the first one yet.
We
We do.
just got it today.
Oh, great. So if you have that those details. Can we have a motion? Thank you, Bill.
Sure, I make a motion that we accept a withdrawal without prejudice. The two following applications. The notice of intent for 182 Southfield Road, DEP file number 137-1716. And the notice of intent for 154 Southfield Road, DEP file 137-1641.
Second,
Thank you. And the vote, Nick,
aye,
Bill,
Aye.
and Gary.
Aye.
Thank you. And I'm an aye as well. Thank you. Okay, and we have 1, 2, 3 to be continued to June 25th without discussion. If I could have a motion for that, please.
okay, I move that we continue to June 25th without discussion, NOI for 18A College Road, DEP file 137-1690. And NOI for Mass Port Authority, 777 Virginia Road, 43A Virginia Road, 48X Virginia Road, and 58B Old Bedford Road, DEP file 137-1699. And NOI for Nashada Country Club, 1861 Sudbury Road, DEP file number 137-1711.
Second.
We have a second. Thank you, Gary. And the vote. I'll go the same order as before. Nick,
Aye,
Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Thank you very much. We have one continuance for this evening. This is NOI for Concord Country Club at 246 Old Road to 9 Acre Corner, DP file 137-1698. Do we have Jeff with us today? Yes.
We do.
Great, I can see you. Apologies for not being in the room.
No worries. All right, folks, my name is Jeffrey Brem. I'm with the Myers Brem Corporation, the engineers in this project. Also with us tonight is Peter Rapocchio, the superintendent, and the general manager of the club, Greg Sincata. We're all here. At last meeting, you were waiting a report from our biological consultant, Dave Crossman, which was submitted at the end of May. And also in that report, he made some recommendations to change the mitigation area, which we have done. And we've reduced, the big thing is we've reduced the tree count that we're proposing to cut from 31 trees to 11 trees. And also 3 trees to be topped. So if you could look on the screen there, you see I'll start with the top trees on the right side. In those circled areas, there are 2 trees in the top and 1 on the bottom, to the north-south. Those would be the topped trees, leaving 15 feet of stump. And then just chopping the top off. And then on the left side, the red dots are the 11 pine trees that we're proposing to be cut. Again, stumps left, not quite as high as 15 feet. And the replication area is that green dotted area, and that's at Dave Crossman's location. And then using the plants that he recommended, there's a planting plan to the right, as a detail and a planting plan. A total of 22 plants to be planted. That's what we're proposing. And it's a significant reduction. We heard from the board. And so we kind of chose the worst culprits that are causing the most shade onto the green 9. And we think that this will accomplish most of what Peter's trying to do to keep that green from getting abused by chemicals and other things to maintain that green. But he's here tonight if you have any questions, as well as Greg.
Mhm. Thank you very much, Jeff. And just for the record, to note the letter from your wetland specialist, David Crossman, which stated that even though there is a certified vernal pool there, it does seem to have, it's no longer a critical habitat. There's been changes since it was certified as a pool, and the state, in fact, has unmapped it as a rare species habitat, which is very unfortunate. But that means that we're actually working under wetland bylaw section 3 and the commission is allowed to approve limited alterations that we have here. And thank you for reducing down from 31 trees, which clearly we all felt was a lot, too much. Okay, so I'm going to open it up first of all to the commissioners, if there's any questions about the new proposal.
Yes, regarding the vernal pool, I'm not sure I understood the effect of what you said. Is the pool, I guess my question is the pool, do we know that the pool is healthy and that it hasn't degraded since it was since it was declared to be a vernal pool? Do we?
We don't know that. No, I don't know that unless the club has information on, water quality testing or any, water quality metrics, we don't know that. But what we do know is that the state had previously mapped that area of the golf club as rare species habitat, because when Brian Windmiller certified these pools, and I think it was the 90s, and was that right, Joan? 90s. A long time ago, they were certified. They were certified because of the presence of blue spotted salamander, which is a rare species. And the state biologist had looked at them a few years ago and didn't see any evidence of them. And so removed the designated rare species habitat mapping. The pool is still a certified vernal pool and has that protection under the bylaw, but does not have the protection of the rare species habitat anymore.
Okay,
So then,
I see.
go back to the question, and so then do these trees that are being removed, will that harm this vernal pool?
So
Well, Dave Crossman submitted a report that indicated that
Yeah,
They will?
they won't.
no, he doesn't think that the increased sunlight on the pool, he doesn't have any concerns of it changing it.
in fact, if I can,
Go ahead.
what he said was pool 5, which is right on the other side of the hill, gets significantly more sun. And that's the one that he noticed more of the wildlife in. So his point was that the sun doesn't seem to bother pond 5. Generally, the same wildlife would be using pond 4, which is the area we're talking about.
Okay, good.
Yeah, originally the proposal would have impacted both pools, but now we're just looking at changes to impact the sunlight on pool 4.
okay.
I did have a comment about the number of plantings that you've proposed. And I know that Dave included a tree. What type of tree was it he included that you didn't actually include? Was it a
Black
chestnut?
Cherry, yep, no, cherry, black cherry.
There was another tree as well that he
Oh, that he
suggested.
proposed was a red
Red
oak.
oak.
Yeah. So is that going to be included as well? Do we have enough trees here, Delia? I thought maybe we needed a few more.
So what's proposed is 3 trees and 19 shrubs to compensate for, I think it was 324 inches of caliper removal and an additional
46 inches.
46 inches of
Trees.
canopy removal.
Mhm.
So I don't think that's adequate for the number of trees that are coming out, and I think that the red oaks that Dave Crossman proposed should be included, and I think the commission could consider 2 to 1 for the
Mm.
trees removed, and the shrub plantings that are proposed in the area that Dave has identified, and if that, we don't know what that square footage is, and so if it's too many trees within that area, it would be helpful to understand what that square footage is. Then that area could be expanded, but I think additional trees should be.
Mm-hmm. Because we're losing so much canopy, I do want to just for the record state that there will be snags left of the trees that are being taken down in inverted commas, but we do need to make up for that canopy loss.
Is there a reason why you didn't include
Yeah, the red, exactly. So thanks for asking. The red oaks get tall again, so we didn't want to come back here in 35 or 40 years and thought that if we're choosing a tree, we would get trees that wouldn't grow so tall. But you know, that's 30 years from now, we'll
Right,
all be
I'm not gonna
gone,
work
so.
on it.
And there might be different treatments for the greens as well,
That's,
In 30 years, yeah.
yeah,
right?
We
that's
don't
right.
know. That's
Right.
true. So we talked a little bit about it too, and if you were to, you know, we have 3 that were topping and 11 that were cutting, so if you add that up as 14, double that as 28. We've only proposed 22, so.
Shrub,
One
though,
way,
that's
some
3,
of which are shrubs.
most of which.
Most of
So
which
3
is-
are trees and 19 are shrubs.
Right. Well, what I was gonna propose is that we put 6 more trees in.
Mhm.
Saplings, we don't wanna put big trees because we're a little concerned about getting a vehicle up there, we wanna do it by hand.
Mhm.
But smaller trees that we could carry on the back and dig with a spade. I think 6 more trees would make it so that it's 2 to 1, and that was our thought.
I think you'd wanna see the plan, right?
Well, I
Yeah, we
think,
need to see the plan. Yeah.
Well, what I
I
was
think
thinking
what
is
you'd
we-
want to see, what I would recommend is that you would want to see 2 to 1 for the trees that are removed. The shrub plantings are a benefit and provide, you know, a structure. But the canopy is what's being lost.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I agree that they should be smaller, you know, so that they can be done by hand.
Right.
But, I don't think the shrubs in this situation are
Okay.
close to being a replacement for the amount of caliber that's coming
Yeah.
out.
So how many trees are we talking about? Do we know?
So we're down to 11 trees that are coming out, so that would be 22. You have 3 that you've proposed, so that would be 19 additional trees.
And these would be this, you know, smaller saplings that we would be able to place. And we don't wanna bring in
No, I.
Big
understand.
yeah,
I understand.
19 on top of the 22 or just 19 total?
19 on top of the 3.
Top of the- so-
So
so-
22
so
trees,
22
no
trees.
shrubs, no shrubs.
No, yes,
No,
you would
shrubs
include
too.
shrubs.
But then 22 trees above the shrubs.
Right.
How many shrubs?
The number that you have proposed seems like a good number. It's, you know, I mean, in a forest, you have an overstory condition, you have a mid-story condition, you have a ground layer. So they're not mutually exclusive.
So in terms of the size of the trees, what size?
I think, I mean, so what you have proposed here is a 2-inch caliper for the cherry. I think that's adequate. for
That's
the-
kind of big that we're worried about, but yeah.
But if we're on cutting down the trees, the stumps are staying in the ground, those aren't being ripped out, so the spacing is,
Well, you might need to
there's not
expand
gonna be,
that.
there's not gonna be the space in that area.
You might need to expand that area. I would work with Dave Crossman and come up with a revised.
And you're okay
plan.
with us expanding in the area?
I think we need to see a revised plan. Yeah,
Yeah, Dave should be able to tell you how to do that.
If we go down this route, what we'd like to know, and I know it's not vote time, but we'd like to know that you're all in support of something like that.
I think it'll depend on the plan, right? That's what we would say.
yeah, I mean, I think if the plan reflects what the conversation
Mhm.
is,
Yeah,
that,
there's no intent to,
right,
Just so you know, I've been to boards where they said, submit all the information. Now that we have it all, thank you, denied. And what I'm trying to do is.
I don't think you
No,
can that.
no,
no,
20 years.
No, we're
ago.
not. We're not playing games. The only,
That's
the only
silly.
other comment that I
You
did
cannot
want,
mess with
the only other comment that I did want to make is that there was a letter submitted requesting that the club consider more sustainable land management practices. And I don't actually personally know what your current land management practices are, but I wondered if you could comment on that and say, I get hopefully convince us that they're sustainable or moving in a sustainable direction.
In terms of the golf course, sure. I mean, I don't know, where do you want me to begin? Be here all night. We start like, we'll talk about sustainability. Water. We are big water conservers, so we've reduced our groundwater by 15% by building that pond. That was, in the town, special permit a few years ago. Moisture sensors, moisture meters, integrated pest management, pitfall traps to monitor insect migration. So, we don't spray willy-nilly. It's actually knowing how many insects are out there. growing degree days, which determine, growth regulator chemicals, crabgrass, all those types of different products, that are all managed through integrated pest management, practices. We are, trying to minimalist as much as we can. We haven't put a granular fertilizer down on our fairways, which are our largest, acreage and property in over 10 years. It's all spoon-fed point nutrition. So we do a lot of sustainability things. I mean, the club is actually an Audubon certified golf course. It's one of 12 in Massachusetts. It's actually up for recertification again this year, which we have our site visit coming up, which we should pass no problem. We do plenty of water quality testing. Our water is cleaner when it leaves the property than when it enters the property. We test it on the north side of the Jenny Dugan, or the west side of the Jenny Dugan, and the east side when it leaves. The golf course is a natural filter. So we have no spray zones along our creeks. We do hand pulling of weeds along, banks and stuff. So we're pretty sustainable. We take
That's
the
helpful. Thank you. No,
environment
I,
pretty seriously. So
Yeah, I was wondering about the Mass Audubon certification. You are certified.
yes, we are. Yeah.
yeah, that's great. That's good. Okay,
But,
thank you.
7 years ago, we did that. So
Good.
Isn't it National Audubon?
Is it Mass or national?
yeah,
National.
national. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Were there any other comments from the commissioners before I open it up to the public?
No, other than to just agree that I think if we can get the number of trees right, I think the rest of the plan looks good to me. And
Yeah, thanks, Gary.
appreciate that we've reduced the tree loss, and think it's a good mitigation strategy with the additional trees we talked about, even though they're saplings.
Agreed. Thank you. Okay, with that, I'll open up for any public comments, please.
You want me to?
Joan Ferguson. Joan Ferguson, 62 Neshoba Road. Speaking for myself, I'm also a member of the country club. So which one is 4 and which one is 5 on that plan? The one.
Yep.
Is the one on the left 5?
The one that the one that we were looking at is 4. The one on the other side of the escrow is 5, closer to the entrance.
Okay, that's 5. So the one 4.
Yeah,
Okay, so that was very loud this spring. So it's, it is a vernal pool,
Yeah.
even though it was
Yeah.
certified that many years ago, it's still a very active vernal pool based on the chorusing. So it's certainly.
was that
worth-
wood frogs that you heard?
Yes,
or-
yes,
Yeah,
certainly worth protecting.
yeah.
And the other question I had is, a practice that the country club has been doing on its golf course is in the wooded areas of, removing a lot of the organic material from the ground surface. Did you see that at your site visit? So
Did you?
I don't know, like
Yeah,
pine
I noticed that.
needles and leaves and everything. So I don't know if it's, if anything has been said about that, or whether it's possible in terms of any sort of order you issue to have a zone of no maintenance zone in that respect, like you did sort of over by Grounds Pond.
Right.
And because, it's not, as I understand it, it's not providing very good upland habitat for vernal pool species if they're, if it's a denuded, fairly denuded understory.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
In those areas, we don't take.
so you're right. So we can put
There's
something in
no-
that just, makes it clear that there are no removals of leaf
Mhm.
litter or, pine mulch or, anything within jurisdiction, so that it does, you might be doing it outside of those areas and there's no jurisdiction, but it certainly is, a benefit to the soil health and the
Yeah.
overall,
Great.
sort of ecological condition to leave that material. But we can include a condition. That's a good idea to include that within, jurisdiction.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. Are there any other public comments?
Yes.
Not in the room?
Yes, sorry, I was trying to find the hand up. This is Sharon McGregor.
Mhm. Go ahead, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you for giving this project a very close evaluation. I just wanted to point out some issues associated with the letter that was recently submitted by the biologist that was hired to assess and draw conclusions on the activities in the vernal pool of the vernal pool species. And really, based on the letter, it's showing insufficient analysis of vernal pool species usage, including the depth of the analysis and the timing of the analysis. One set of spring observations does not justify a conclusion of no significant impact. There's no field notes or past studies that are referenced. And in particular, Brian Windmiller's excellent work that could be no better. He did his PhD on that area, studying those vernal pools, and knows them better than anyone else. And he has written a letter to the NRC saying, do not allow these alterations. Where changes in vernal pool usage are noted by the biologists, the club's biologists, these changes are most likely, or at least in many cases, most likely due to the club's activities. There's been a lot of construction in the upland with the new courts, and there's been an ever widening of the golf course green. Many trees, including old growth trees, have been cut down in various places of around the golf course, most notably adjacent to Williams Road, in the building of the pond. And so there's been, just a lot of impact, cumulative impact over the years that have added up, and no doubt have impacted these once very vibrant, active vernal pools. So if you do more cutting, there's going to be more impact. And the cutting is not necessary because there are alternatives. And there's no need to cut down trees to provide more sun for the grass, because you have the option of shade tolerant grass, which should be considered. And any of the plantings that you're suggesting be added to replace trees that you cut down, those are great plantings, but they should be in addition to the existing forested area, because any more cutting is going to really be the death of those vernal pools. We need to protect what we have, and we need to restore the areas that we can to try to get those pools to be active again, healthy again. They've suffered population declines of the species, and the blue spotted has not been seen. Doesn't mean it's not necessarily able to return. We don't know. We wouldn't know until we did a fuller analysis of that. So that really should be done. And in general, what I'm advocating, along with my husband, Greg McGregor, is that the NRC exercise its full authority to protect these vernal pools. You have that authority, and this is the time to do it, to try to protect and restore them, and have this be an example of how we go forward with addressing applications, permits like this. And any grass outside the 100-foot buffer zone of the protection should be replaced with shade tolerant grass, as I mentioned. And in addition, organic regenerative lawn care should be applied at the very least in the sub-watershed proximal to the vernal pools. I applaud what the golf club is already doing, but I think there's more that can be done in that regard. So we're asking that the NRC not permit this activity, and that we do what we can to explore these alternatives that would be viable for the course to accomplish what it wants to accomplish, and at the same time protect and restore these precious resources on club land. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. I wonder if Jeff or anyone would like to comment on the grass species that you use, and whether there is an opportunity to reconsider that.
Yeah, so no, that's a good question. The golf course is over, I don't know, 100 years old, so there's a million different varieties of grass on it to begin with. When we overseed, we use the newer varieties of bent grass, which is the desired grass for putting greens. They are bred for shade tolerance, chemical resistance, drought tolerance, heat resistance. So the new grasses that we're using are better. And as we continue to interseed with those, hopefully over time, you know, they will continue to be viable. But, you know, you have such a mixed bag of different grasses on there. Some are bred for, you know, lower mowing heights, some are for higher heights of cut. So we try to use those practices where we can, and take advantage of those, you know, species where we do. And we do a lot of organic fertilizer too, particularly around all of our roughs, around the areas that are sensitive on the golf course. They're all treated with organic, nature safe products. So we're doing this stuff already.
Thank you.
So the reason that led you to look into the cutting, was it the condition of the grass, or was it somehow the interfering with the play?
It's condition of the
Grass?
you know, the grass. Grass was becoming, you know, weak, not viable. When it's, you know, thins out because it doesn't get enough sunlight and then too much moisture sits on the surface, it, you know, becomes breaks down from, you know, foot traffic, maintenance traffic. So we've tried everything on that green. We put internal drainage in that green. The green's over, you know, 100 years old. We actually put an internal drainage system in. We have sprinklers that water to the second, so we know exactly how much water is going down on those particular areas. So we're, you know, maximizing that. We've done, you know, more frequent top dressings. We've done more surface venting to get more air into the profile. So we've tried to do as much as we can. The trees are, you know, it's the last resort over there. And that's why we've done all these different measures before coming through to this point. But, you know, in my professional opinion, for managing a golf course, as I've done for 20 years, that's the next viable option to help protect that green. That's just, you know, that's where we're at, so.
Thank you. And I also wanted to address Sharon's comment on Brian Windmiller's letter, which I certainly didn't want to ignore. But since we have an updated report from David Prossman, who is a certified wetlands consultant, that is what the NRC has to consider at this time.
Do you mean to replace what Brian has written, or is that in addition to?
Well, Brian hasn't actually, my understanding is that he hasn't actually assessed the pool for some time. But I do agree, the pool, I mean, it was a rare species pool, and now it's not counted as that by the state. So the NRC is going by the guidelines around Avona Pool, which is not a rare species habitat.
Right, but it serves the other purposes, and the analysis that was done was not sufficient in any way to document how healthy or unhealthy these vernal pools are. It was just too short and no depth to that analysis. So it's not sufficient information to support the permitting.
I see that David is here on the
Oh, great. Okay.
I'd love to hear from David. Dave, you have anything you want to say to us?
Well, I will agree that the study wasn't, you know, an in-depth study, because I was brought in right at the site walk that we had, which was already past the wood frog season for the most part. But I did wander out there 3 or 4 times through that vernal pool, and having done several other vernal pool studies already this year, the activity in this particular one was not what I would have expected, based on Brian's information. There just isn't as much activity. And I've been to a couple other pools, salamander pools, and they were loaded up. And actually just a couple weeks before this one. So I'm sure there's been some long-term effects from activity over there, but the gist of the report was that the area is just not, it's not as critical. It's not a critical area as compared to some of the other areas within the country club property. So and I actually think the other vernal pool on the other side is a little more active than this one. And I know there's
Thank you,
another one,
Dave.
there's a couple other certified vernal pools on the property, but those are in a more friendly habitat than this one. This one is right in the center of activity coming in and out of the golf course and greens right next to it. So it's, you know, those activities are bound to make an impact over the years, but it's at the point now that natural heritage doesn't feel it's not a priority habitat anymore. And I'm not saying there's no activity in there, but I don't think that the activity warrants, an excessive amount of protection, considering that this area is and has been a golf course, and that area has been a hole for over 100 years now. That's, the country club is merely trying to maintain what they have. They're not expanding what they're trying to do here. They're just trying to maintain what's been here for a century. So that's, I didn't want them cutting down all those trees. I'm in agreement that was a little excessive. But the number of trees that they are cutting, we're further back and away from the vernal pool, so I think the impacts are not going to be as great as if we had gone ahead with the full clearing, basically, of that hill. So, and I didn't get a chance to see the plan, but I do think the additional tree planting should happen. They were, it's going to be years and years before any of those trees get to the size that the current trees are. So, they can, address that again at some point, I'm sure. But that area I also picked as the mitigation because most of the tree cutting was going in there, and I would have left a big gap in the vegetative community right in that area. And considering that there are a number of invasive species on the site, I didn't want to see an area that was open to freshly cut open to be invaded by particularly bittersweet, but also buckthorn on that hill. So that's one of the reasons I moved it down there, to provide a more native protection of the area for it, not only the vernal pool, but the surrounding habitat.
Thank you, David.
The natural heritage ruling is strictly based on the blue spotted salamander. But the town, with its wetlands bylaw, has full jurisdiction and authority to be strong on this permit and to really not allow the cutting, because you're changing the hydrology with more tree cutting. A lot of trees have already been lost, and the work that was done in the creation of the ball courts did a lot to probably destroy the overwintering habitat of the blue salamander. But there's still other salamanders are there, the other amphibians, and with the tree loss that's being proposed, that's going to further alter the hydrology of that area. And so that could very well and likely will greatly impact the pools. And there are alternatives. There are alternatives to meet what you're trying to achieve. And I think that those haven't been fully explored.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've heard from the experts, and we've had public comments tonight. So is there another comment?
I would just like to make
Yeah.
one comment regarding the tree clearing. The impact will increase the groundwater table, because those are pretty sizable trees that are currently taking up a tremendous amount of groundwater within them. And typically, and I've seen this from a number of clients, they want to cut down all the trees because they think the sunlight will dry up the area. But what happens, in fact, is the groundwater is not taken up as much as it was prior to the tree cutting. And you end up with more water in the ground, more water reaching the ground. And if anything, based on my last visit to the vernal pool, I saw that the pool had receded over 10 feet from the previous time I was there. So the impact, in my opinion, would be that it may actually hold a little more water for a little longer than it does now, based on the inability of the vegetation to withhold that water from the ground.
But those trees provide a microclimate that's important, vital for the vernal pools.
Yeah,
And it's a combination of groundwater and microclimate and adequate rainfall. Lots of factors, and
Okay.
you need all
Sharon,
of them.
thank you. We hear your concerns. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I have to move us on. We have a lot on the agenda today. So unless any of the commissioners have any other questions or comments, I'd like to propose that we continue to June 25 for revisions to the planting plan, as we discussed.
The deadline for that, resubmittal is
Friday at noon.
gonna be postponed for 2 more days, because I'm gonna be away.
What no,
Friday, this Friday?
Friday at noon.
2 days?
We're on a 2-week schedule right now, and we're very short staffed, so we can't
I
make an
know that
exception.
hurt.
So
guys
it's
want
either
to
June
try
25th or the
25th?
following meeting is
I'll make it happen.
July 13th, Karen?
Yep.
Or 16th?
Okay, we'll get it
Yep.
by June 25th.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Good evening. So next we're moving to new applications. The first one up is Concord Land Conservation Trust. This is at 68B Sudbury Road, DP file 1371712. Who do we have in the room? Hi.
Okay. Hi, I'm Joan Ferguson on the board of the Concord Land Conservation Trust with Jane Gruber Chevalier, our executive director. So, you know, the land trust is anybody here, can I ask this? Anybody here in the audience here for this? Because I'll turn around and speak louder, but I assume you can hear me otherwise. So the land trust has been working for 20 years to try and manage water chestnut, mostly up in the Fairhaven Bay area. And for 10 of those years, we used a mechanical harvester, and that got rid of the biomass. And the last 10 years, we've been able to control it with hand pulling by everybody and their brother. It's been a huge community effort. So a couple of years ago, we moved downstream and began hand pulling, and we were overwhelmed by it and realized that wasn't going to work. So we looked into, we said, well, can we use mechanical harvesting again? And no, because now we have water milfoil in the river, and mechanical harvesting just spreads that. And there are a lot of logistical issues with getting a harvester in there anyway. So it turns out that sort of the best practice now, considered by SISMA and by ORS, is to use an herbicide application. And this was used by a Fish and Wildlife Service upstream quite successfully. So it's successful. So we thought we decided to pursue this, and we got a grant to cover most of the cost from the Wild and Scenic River Stewardship Council. And we located a contractor, a consultant, who'd been used to do this by other organizations quite successfully, and good reputation. So we got that person online and learned more about it. And now we're before you to asking to get approval through the Ecological Restoration Notice of Intent, which we submitted thanks to the town. So you can see, I also brought this, although that's pretty good. This is the area. And so here's Sudbury Road, here's Route 2. And the hatched areas are where the really big populations of water chestnut are. But you can see from the map that this consultant did, who we're going to be hiring, really the population extends all the way up the river and past the Route 2 bridge.
Right.
Okay. And so all told, that's about 10 acres of water chestnut that we'd be treating. So this is a chemical called ClearCast, which is an Imazamax? Okay, well, that's you know, a salt essentially. So it's got very limited toxicity apparently. It's fast acting. It breaks down quickly. And they in a boat and they spray it on the surface of foliar application of this. And they would do that early summer, and then they would come back and do a retreatment late summer, like or maybe midsummer. And then we will survey and see if that's been successful or how successful has it been. And in the meantime, in areas where in areas where the population of a water chestnut is sparse enough, we will be continuing with the hand pulling of that as we've done for so many years.
So we have to do this every year, Joan?
We hope not, because we've only got the funding for 1 year.
All right.
And it may be that, it's, they would need to come back next year, but the hope is not, and, I think it's pretty successful, it's pretty effective, just doing these 2 treatments.
And it would only affect the water chestnut or other species too?
No, it just the water chestnut.
Huh.
Well, you see the water chestnut on the surface.
yeah.
And so when they apply it to the foliage, it doesn't go anywhere. It dries on the foliage
Okay.
and then kills it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we're excited.
Thank you. So any other questions from the commissioners?
No.
Yeah, you own your own harvester? You rent that harvester for
You mean those years ago?
Yeah.
It was the Fish and Wildlife Service harvester, and we would bring it in, and Leo Cavalier would, I don't know why he was doing it, would put it in at the Sudbury Road Bridge, and then it would go upriver into Fairhaven
I
Bay.
need to see the Fairhaven Bay.
Yeah,
I'll try to
he'd
do
launch it with a frame
Mhm.
off Sudbury Road
Ah.
over the bridge.
Boy, oh boy.
And they would dump it then on land in Lincoln, with a conveyor belt. And then the DPW would come, pick
Yep.
it up, take it over to Marabello. I
Yep.
don't know, it
Oh,
was,
yeah.
It was a number of different disposal. I think that was for a couple years.
yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's very, I don't know if that would be
Yeah, no,
possible
that's-
to do that again.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Mhm.
And then they sold the harvester.
Oh, they did?
Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and the fact that there's the water milfoil now, which was not there 10 years
Right,
ago,
yeah.
changes the
It would just
dynamic.
chop it right up and they would, yeah,
Right,
Another problem.
yeah.
right.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
Well, it's great that it's been used, this approach has been used successfully already upstream. That's good news, because usually we would prefer not to have this sort of treatment, but as the situation's been getting worse and worse, and you have seen success further upstream, I don't have any concerns. I think this is a good approach. Any other comments from the commissioners? I can't see any. I can't see everyone. No. Okay,
No.
I'll open it up for public comment then. Is there any public comment on this application?
I don't see any.
No? Okay, so in that case, I believe we can close the hearing and issue an order of conditions.
Yes,
Read copy.
I move that we close and issue an order of conditions for 68 for let's see, Concord Land Conservation Trust, 68B Sudbury Road, DEP file 137-1712, with finding A, standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 42.
Thank you, Nick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill. And the vote, starting with Nick, please.
Bill, aye.
Gary? Thank you, and I'm an aye as well. Thank you, Joan and Jane. Good luck with the project.
Yep, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Next, we have 252 Lexington Road. This is DP file 1371714 for an NOI. Is there somebody in the room or
Yes.
online? In the room. Is it Seth?
Yes, ma'am. I just wandered up. This is
Hi.
Seth.
Good evening.
Good evening. So as you mentioned, we have put forward an application for a notice of intent for 252 Lexington Road. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Alex Dohan, who is behind me here. The application is to replace an existing garage on the property that's to the rear of the existing dwelling. That existing garage is within the 50-foot buffer zone, and we are proposing to move it forward to remove it entirely from the 50-foot buffer zone. The red outline on your plan in the proposed view is the limits of the existing. So we will be improving the setback to the BVW on the site. There's also a small addition and a covered porch to the existing dwelling. Those are partially located within the 100-foot buffer zone. All of this work is to occur within an existing lawn area or a portion of the existing driveway. A portion of the existing driveway is to be removed and replaced with permeable pavers. And then coupled with that, we also are showing the restoration of a portion of the lawn that is within the 25-foot buffer zone. So that's to the rear or planned bottom of the property. There's an existing brush line there. The lawn extends all the way back to that. So we'll be restoring that with native plantings, particularly inkberry, red maple, witch hazel, and I believe we have one other specified in that, as well as a native seed mix. So that is a summary of what we're doing. So overall, we'll be increasing the setbacks for BVW, as well as restoration of the 25-foot buffer zone on the property. If the commission has any questions, I'd be happy to dive into them.
Thank you. And I know there was some back and forth with staff. Did we agree that some more plantings was needed to what's proposed, or was it okay in the end, Delia?
So for this, I think because the structure is being moved outside the 50, that was partial mitigation in and of itself.
Okay,
And so, we just felt that there was some minor sort of housekeeping items on the plan, that erosion control should be added at the downlet limit restoration area. To consider, the invasives, there's a small amount of invasives, and just to remove those before they become problematic, and that to replace the boulders with pheno markers, and I think I shared that with you
Yeah,
yesterday.
and I've shared that with Alex as well. There were
Yeah.
no objections to any of that, so.
Okay,
okay, great.
We'd be happy to do that, whether it's a condition, or for submit a revised plan.
Yep.
See a strong nod for the revised. plan.
yes, yes.
That's excellent. Thank
The
you,
plan
sir.
rules.
I got
That's
you.
what everybody reads.
I got you.
So yeah, if you can get that in by Friday noon, then this could go as a closing issue if everything is what has been discussed.
Mhm. Are there any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
No, it seems straightforward.
Yeah, yeah.
You won't have to come back if you, okay.
Yeah.
Is there any public comment on this application?
None in the room, and I don't see any on screen.
Great, okay. Excellent, so we look forward to. So did we need yeah, we need these extra pieces added in the plan and then the conditions, right? Thank you.
Revised plan by
Very good.
Friday.
Good.
Friday noon.
Friday noon,
Yep.
you will have it. Great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know you're on the
Next
next one, Seth, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, stay where you are.
Stay where you are. Okay, so next up is 19 Nimrod Drive. This is another NOI DP file 1371713. Back to you, Seth.
Okay, so thank you. So again, for the record, this is Seth Donahoe with Dilson Roy. I'm here tonight on behalf of the owner, John Marchi, for the property. This is a proposal for an addition to the existing dwelling, and that incorporates the removal of a portion of the existing dwelling. So the net change will be an increase to the BVW. Right now, they have 52 feet from the existing dwelling to the BVW. They will remove that portion on the northern portion or plan up on your view. And the new setback will become in excess of 61 feet in that area. Coupled with the addition, the applicant desires to construct a barn in the backyard area. This is in compliance with the town's 50-foot structure setback, so that is 54 feet from the wetland, greater than what the existing house is. And that'll be within the existing lawn area as well on that. So this also incorporates a restoration of a significant portion of the 25-foot buffer zone. That is a lawn or sparsely vegetated area. It's a very shady corner of the backyard, has some larger pine trees. So we're showing a restoration within that with plantings and seed mix as well. That's designed to exceed the total amount of alterations in that area. I do believe the applicant is here tonight as well. We haven't formally met yet, but I saw the plan that's here, so both of us would be happy to address any questions that the commission has as we go through this.
So erosion controls came up, needs to be added. At the down gradient limit of the restoration work. Have you had that discussion with staff already, Seth?
Yes, so Delia
Yeah.
was kind enough to forward me notes prior, there's no problem. But, this application, the area is to be hand raked and seeded, but we have no problem installing additional
Okay,
road
great,
down gradient.
great. And yeah, so you do have tree protection detail. And just to note that one of the maples to be removed is actually an invasive Norway maple, so we definitely encourage that. And I
And we
think I don't think
I
there was
think-
anything else, was there, Delia?
We did want to see additional trees and shrubs as mitigation and pheno markers.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So I have actually already drafted a plan
Great.
that shows increased plantings.
Oh,
if we have
great.
time tonight, I'd love to hear what the expectation is so that we don't do a vicious circle of back and forth, so.
So really what it should be is the you have 1,360 square feet of development, additional square footage in the buffer. So whatever tree shrub combination gets you to that 1,360. So trees are 100 foot, 10 foot on center, which is 100 square feet
Yep.
per tree. Shrubs are 5 foot on center, which is 25 feet per shrub. So whatever combination gets you to that or greater, would be good. And native seed mix is always encouraged because you want something,
Right.
you know, but it isn't really counted towards the mitigation number.
So I will work with the applicant on that, and
Great.
as long as we're all in agreement, I don't have a problem meeting a deadline on that as well.
Great.
Great.
And just a question, Billy, the placement of the trees and shrubs, that would be on the revised plan, but it would be where this native seed mix is planned to be going now.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because that represents 1,400 plus or minus square feet.
It's 1,400 is the hatched area,
Yeah.
yes, correct.
Okay.
All right.
Are there any public comment on this application?
I think just one, sorry, Sarah, one last.
Yes, go
thing.
ahead. Yep.
Pheno markers, which I think you're aware of, but just to.
Yep.
Sort of name that.
If the plan's in order, would you like me back at your next meeting, or is this something?
No, really, I don't think so, do you?
I won't take that personally.
No, no. It's any other time.
Saving you a step.
Then I will leave you this evening unless the commission needs anything else.
No, thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
evening. Okay, so next we have 874 Barrett's Mill Road. This is another notice of intent, DP file 13717. Do we have the final numbers?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Okay. Okay, is Richard here?
Yes, hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
I'm Rich Kirby from LEC Environmental Consultants, and with me tonight, representing the applicant 874 Barrett's Mill Road LLC is Stefan Bilhards. We also have project engineer Mike Novak from Patriot Engineering and landscape architect Jeff Toma. So we filed 3 notices of intent for this residential subdivision roadway at 874 Barrett's Mill Road, one for the roadway itself and 2 each for lots, 2 of the 4 lots that are located within the commission's buffer zone jurisdiction. If I
Sorry,
could
Rich?
share my screen, I could
Yes.
overview the
I was just
plans
gonna ask
here.
you to do that. You should be
Great.
able to. Thank you.
So,
Okay.
Delia, is it okay? Can we manage all three of these as one discussion?
I think so. I mean, they're three separate, and I think Rich can go through why that is, but I think it's fine to do it as one discussion, and if there are specific items, just to be clear about which filing that
Which
refers
one?
to.
Yeah.
Which lots, I think, because we don't
Right.
have files.
And the first comment I have, even before you start, is I was very confused with the plans because it looked like the numbering of the lots changed on the pages.
Yes, you are correct, and that's part of my
Okay, see, I
presentation
looked at the
this evening.
plans.
Yes. The just a footnote on that, the landscape plan, the last sheet of the plan set, the lot numbers are reversed. So
Yes.
we will correct that in an
Okay.
upcoming plan revision. So apologies for that confusion.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Sure. So this lot measures just under 2.4 acres. It's located in the western portion of town, north of Route 2, west of Lowell Road, immediately to the east of the Northeastern Correctional Facility near the Route 2 Rotary, as I'm sure many of you are familiar with. This is an existing conditions plan here. Barrett's Mill Road is to the south, and there's an existing driveway that provides access to a single-family dwelling and several outstructures. The majority of the lot has historically been farmed. It's been fallow for a couple of years. And there are a number of wood chip piles and other things out there. There is an irrigation pond, a non-jurisdictional irrigation pond within the center of the property. And then we have some bordering vegetated wetlands off along the eastern boundary here and also to the north and along the majority of the western property boundary, where we have wet meadows, I guess you'd call them, associated with the Northeastern Correctional Facility. So these all place buffer zone on the property. You can see here, this is the 100-foot buffer zone that my cursor is following. And it sort of goes around this northerly wetland, and then we have another 100-foot buffer zone around this easterly wetland. Site topography is relatively flat. There's about a 5-foot elevation gradient across the site, generally descending toward the north, east, and west from the topographic high point of the central portion of the site to the wetlands. And I will move on here. So this is our our site preparation plan. We have erosion controls, 12-inch compost socks surrounding the footprint of proposed work. And of course, all of the existing structures will be demolished. I wanted to mention that obviously there's a little bit of history on this site in terms of enforcement and restoration. Under existing conditions, the wetlands have been relatively unaltered, as has the 25-foot buffer zone, and there are boulders placed every, I don't know, 50 feet or so along that 25-foot boundary along the wetlands that are out there, and that has revegetated itself quite well. Moving on, this is the subdivision plan, which shows a 50-foot right-of-way where a subdivision roadway will enter from Barrett's Mill Road and end with a cul-de-sac here at the terminus. We have lots 1, 2, 3, and 4 going counterclockwise around the roadway. That's reversed in the landscape plan, but we'll correct that. So the subdivision portions of the subdivision roadway are within jurisdiction, as well as portions of lot 3 and 4. This is the grading and drainage plan. It shows the arrangement and layout of the proposed dwellings along with the driveways. We have a 22-foot wide roadway proposed within the center of the 50-foot right-of-way. That'd be a paved roadway that would end in the cul-de-sac terminus. We have driveways extending from the subdivision roadway, providing access to the dwellings, 4 in all. If you look closely, and we can on later versions of the plan, but the 100-foot buffer zone is right here, so it just clips the northern portion of this house, as well as the western portion is also within the buffer zone. Over here on this side, this lot, the buffer zone really just clips the northern portion of the house here, and the southeastern portion of the house is also clipped by the buffer zone. The stormwater management for the roadway really consists of several catch basins which will collect and direct stormwater runoff. They're situated at a low point in the roadway, and that'll be directed to a subsurface infiltration system here located on lot 1. And each individual lot will have its own subsurface infiltration system to collect roof runoff as well as its own septic system. This is just a cross section of the roadway, probably of more interest to the planning board, but it gives you a sense of how the roadway will be constructed. And then this is the planting plan. I do have a color rendered version of this plan that I think might be better for the commission to see what it is that we're doing. Again, don't mind the lot numbers. We'll get those corrected. We do have a number of street trees proposed. All of these trees proposed on the site are native. They're a combination of red maple, sugar maple, white spruce, and eastern white pine to provide some deciduous and evergreen cover, evergreen especially for the screening behind lots 1 and 3. And we are also proposing a pollinator meadow seed mix between the 25-foot buffer zone, which is already vegetated, and the 50-foot buffer zone, as shown here in this sort of brownish color. So we'd be sowing that mixture to expand the footprint of the buffer zone as it relates to the site, and basically having some additional naturally vegetated land separating the lawn areas from the adjacent wetlands. Let's see. So I did mention the individual notices of intent were also filed for lots 3 and 4 for these 2 lots here. The plan set is the same. We just included, one plan set, understanding that when we get to the final version of the plans after meeting with the planning board and addressing Delia and Bert's comments, as well as the commission's, everyone will be approving the same plan set, and we'll get you as many copies as you need. Delia and Bert did have an opportunity to provide some preliminary comments. I have those here. I'm happy to go through them briefly. Number 1, review of the BVW boundary. The flags were reestablished. This was delineated by another consultant maybe 10 years ago, and those flags were reestablished in the field for us to review. However, they used lower pin flags and tied the flags to things that aren't very persistent. So now, since everything has grown over, they are no longer visible. So we're working with the surveyor to reestablish those flags to make them more visible for Delia and or Bert to review. Certainly trees to be protected on the plan. We will add the commission's tree protection detail. Any Norway maples that had been selected for preservation will be removed. We'll also talk with the planning board about perhaps realigning the roadway right in this zone here to try and maximize the distance between the roadway and the adjacent wetland. Obviously, the pavement is farther from the wetland compared to the existing driveway that comes in. So we are farther away, but we'll see what we can do about maximizing that, or even going down from 22 feet to 18 feet.
Great.
The lot 1 driveway, which really is the lot 4 driveway, is a lot of its good distance within that 50-foot buffer zone. We understand we're outside of it, but we'll see what we can do about maybe realigning this house and driveway to shorten that up. We will modify the erosion control plan to show stockpiling and staging. And also, we had talked about, or Delia and Bert had brought up the idea of having some pheno conservation markers along the limit of the proposed pollinator meadow seed mix. So one question I had for the commission is, what is the expected spacing of those generally? Is it like 50 feet, or on a site like this where it's pretty wide open, or?
Generally 25 feet.
Say it again, Delia, sorry.
It's generally 25 feet.
Okay. And so we can look at that and add those to the plan as well. So with that, I'm happy to turn it back over to the commission or the staff and dig into any more details. Obviously, we know we're going to be requesting a continuance tonight so we can get our DEP file numbers. We can meet with the planning board and also get our town engineering comments, which we expect July 9th.
I have a question on the town web map, the GIS. That's probably not. I know it's not always accurate. There's an intermittent stream or something that cuts across. That's not there.
That's right. Not anymore. It is not there. There is an intermittent stream in the back upon which these wetlands border. And we did include the stream stats analysis in our notice of intent application to confirm that intermittent status.
Just a comment, it's mostly not jurisdictional, but red oaks and, red maples and white pines along that road at that density seems like it's gonna be pretty heavily treed in 20 or 30 years.
I agree. I believe this spacing is per planning board requirements.
It's gonna be a real problem for maintenance of the road and other things, I would think, but anyway.
So I think just a couple of other things, Rich. I think one of the comments that I had included was to provide a chart of impacts by zone and mitigation per zone. And then on what is lot 4, but shown as lot 1, smoothing out those pheno markers. So the limits of lawn are going to be
Over
challenging.
here. Right.
Yes.
A
So
more
just-
practical mow line, I think is how you put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to consider that. And then I didn't put this in my comments because I think it's, we're sort of preliminary right now, and I want to take a look at the site once the wetlands have been reestablished and kind of get a sense of what those areas in the 25 and 50-foot zones look like. But there is likely going to be, some sort of mitigation that's a tree and shrub mitigation that.
Not just seeds.
Right.
And that
Okay.
that irrigation pond is just an irrigation pond, no jurisdiction around that.
It's too small
Is
to
it?
have jurisdiction.
Okay.
There's, you mentioned infiltration systems on some of the lots, and one large one on lot 1. Is the intent to provide infiltration for all of the impervious surfaces or what?
Mike, can you chime in on that? I know each lot has its own infiltration system, but I'm not sure if that's solely for the house in order to meet the town's stormwater management requirements, or if portions of the driveway also might be infiltrated.
Mike Novak from Patriot. To answer that, each individual lot will have an individual roof system that will collect the total roof area for each house. And then the large infiltration system shown on lot 1 is sized to take the entire roadway along with all driveway areas shown. Now, with the decent soils out there, if we have to divert a little bit of driveway to one of the other systems on the lot, that won't be a problem because we have great soils out there. But that system is where Richard's cursor is now, is sized to capture the driveway areas and the roadway area that you see on the plan now. So the intent is to capture all of the impervious and infiltrate.
So there'll be some way of collecting all of those 4 driveway impervious runoffs and, okay.
Yes, with the flat sites, that these will probably be, the houses will probably be bounded up slightly, which will allow us to pitch the driveway. And if we need to add berms, we can, but the biggest thing here is we want to make sure that we can get this roadway in first and foremost and have the commission be comfortable with it, and then we can certainly tweak that.
So Delia, you said you have not really had a chance to check the wetlands markers out there, is that?
They haven't been.
They haven't been done,
reestablished.
because again, on the map, it shows extensive wetlands up in towards the river, right? Looking at this, you know what I mean?
Those are accurate though.
I know they may not be, but that's pretty elaborate.
Where are you?
Here. Here's the stream down below, but then see above?
Yeah, so this, there are wetlands along this boundary and
Yep.
up here,
Yep,
and then this is not accurate.
that's.
Because I looked at this, when it was flagged when there was a violation 10 years ago or whatever it was.
Mm.
And it was accurate at that time. It's
Okay.
being reestablished, but we haven't verified it
Very
for, you know,
okay.
it's a 10-year-old delineation at this point.
Okay,
So
all
we
right.
need to look at the,
Yeah, so that could be significant in terms of this.
it could be, but,
Yeah.
we
I would
have
only add, I would only add that the delineation that was done about 10 years ago and reviewed by Delia, seems pretty straightforward to me. I mean,
Okay.
these wetland lines do occur along a topographic slope, so it's not as though we're dealing with, you know, broad flat topography with, you know, really nuanced transitions. But again, happy to take a look at that with Delia and Bert once we have the flags reestablished.
No bird anymore.
There's
No
bird
Bert,
anymore.
no
Oh,
Bert, sadly.
you should have told me sooner. I think I've mentioned him like 4 times.
And Rich, forgive me, I don't think this has been mentioned tonight, but are you planning to put sprinkler systems in, or would that be up to the owners once they're in place?
That's a great question. Stefan is here representing the applicant, and he likely has an answer to that question.
I only mention it because if they are going to go in, they would also need to be on the plan and reviewed by the NRC.
Okay.
And outside the 50.
Mhm.
All right.
So you can establish temporary irrigation for the, any mitigation plantings, but it has to be noted on the plan that they're temporary above ground and they will be removed within 2 years following establishment.
Okay.
If there's no more questions or comments from the commissioners, I just open it up for public comment if there are any.
Yeah. Somebody else
We
is
do
at.
have. So we have
Okay.
comments online.
Let
and
me
the-
jump in there. Yeah, Ed Tiedemann, 656 Barrett's Mill Road.
Mhm.
Uh,
Go ahead,
this
Ed.
stream essentially goes to my property, where it joins another stream going under my driveway, crosses the Barrett's Mill Road in a culvert, and then goes into my property on the other side of Barrett's Mill Road as it heads out to the Assabet River there. I'd like to note that this part of the stream is far more intermittent than it used to be. That's my observation. I don't know what's happened to it. I know there was some issues 13 years ago with the farm. I just want to make sure that we do have those wetlands properly delineated up there. And that we don't have a problem in the future with that stream. As I said, it's become more intermittent. And if you looked at the bank of the stream, you can sort of see it looks like it's dry half the time, but it used to be much more. And if you look at the GIS map, and I guess I gather from the discussion tonight, the GIS map was not updated with the new delineations of wetlands that was done 13
No, so
years
that-
ago. I'm a bit confused on that.
Right, so the wetland GIS layer is a layer that was developed in the 70s. And it was an analysis of USGS mapping, soils mapping, I think aerial mapping, and some ground truthing. And it is an estimate, and it's really used as a planning tool. So it gives, from wetland standpoint, it gives us an idea of where the wetlands are on the property. It's used by the planning board to understand development rights of a parcel. But when we have approved wetland delineations, they're only valid for 3 years. And so they are not, that Wetlands Conservancy District is a fixed layer, it doesn't change. Even if we know, like in the case of that stream that crosses the Marabella property, and that stream I mean, that happened a long time ago. I believe that it was filled in many years ago. Between the seventies and, you know, more than 20 years ago. So that layer doesn't change. And the reason for that is because it is used by the planning board. It is established in the zoning bylaw for them to use as a planning tool.
Yeah,
So
It's
you
a
said, you
best
say
guess
that the
estimate.
wetlands delineation was good for 3 years. Is this, so was
Correct.
this done on this particular property in the last 3 years?
So what the applicant has done is reestablish the boundary that was set in place about 10 years ago. And I will review that line and determine if there have been any changes since that. And if there have been, then that line would not get approved until it was established according to the current limits of the wetland boundary.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so my understanding is that you're going to the planning board on July 29th, is that correct?
Excuse me, sir, more public comment or?
yeah, more public comment here,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sarah, yeah.
So
Sorry,
Michael
go
Krupp,
ahead.
Michael Krupp, I live at Wright Farm, 17 Wright Farm. Our property is my house is 35 feet from the property line. If the property line is the stone fence, approximately 35 feet. And the tree line is approximately 75 feet, as I just, measured with a, golf, distance finder, from that stone fence. So I guess two things. One is just a clarification, is the jurisdiction of this commission limited to the issue of setbacks from the watershed, or is that?
From the wetlands.
Nothing else?
Yes.
So no, there's setbacks, no other dimensions, okay, so that's helpful here. My worry is about just how close this property is, what those houses are gonna be. I'll also just note that while our house is something like probably, my estimate is 5 feet, grade of our house is 5 feet above this. We do already get flooding in our, in the entrance to our basement. We would get flooding in our basement if we didn't use sump pumps. So the water table, if it matters to what these setbacks are, et cetera, the water table already, each of these heavy rains that we have, our sump pump is operative. And we have had damage before in our basement if those sump pumps are not working. So I have no idea whether that matters with what these setbacks are and and it's, by the way, water table. It's not that the rain fills this, it's that you wait 2 days and then that's when, that's what problem. So, and also I doubt within the purview of this, but I'll just mention it's a major game, trailway that's behind there, coyote, deer, bobcat, daily, that's their daily, trip is behind our property in that, tree line and just beyond the tree line onto the farm. I doubt those are material to what the decision.
Well, it's too bad. I mean, I would love to see that maintained, I agree with you.
Well, the deeper that, distance is, or the further away from that tree line, the more that'll be maintained. It's obviously gonna change with houses that are about deer grazing in that field. And therefore coyotes and therefore bobcats, but it is daily, that's the daily trail.
Rich, are basements proposed as part of this application?
I believe full foundations are proposed. Mike, do you have the answer to the next question relative to the bottom of the basement elevation and the water table?
Yeah, we haven't established any first floors or basements for these particular dwellings yet, but we did extensive soil testing, so we have established the groundwater levels. We can certainly strive to be above them.
So it'd be good if you can put the groundwater, and were those witnessed soil tests?
Yes, they will witness soil tests with the Board of Health.
Okay, great. If you can put those on the plan and also, once you know them, put on the elevations of the first floor and the basements. Thank you.
Will do.
Is it reasonable to address the applicant directly to ask if there's any intention to remove any of that tree line that exists now?
I'm happy to answer that that question through the commission. All of the proposed work and the limit of work that we showed on the plans is within the existing fallow agricultural field. Aside from some of the trees that are along the existing gravel driveway along the western property boundary near Barrett's Mill Road, all of the trees in the back, if you will, would be preserved. There's no intention or proposal to alter any of that vegetation.
And is it reasonable to ask the Natural Resource Commission whether the proposed white pines are the best trees to be used as that? It looks like a visual barrier, which we certainly appreciate as abutters, that there's an intention to do it. And I ask that because Wright Farm is filled with white pines that we're now needing to take out. They are a great visual block when you first put them in there, and they're 10 feet tall, but unless given a lot of room around them, what they are now is trunks. You look at trunks and the tree canopy is well above the sight line. So if again, I'm sure they did it at Wright Farm, a development of 40 some years ago. They're cheap. You can put them up all over the place. You've got a nice visual barrier while they last. And then they just grow right up above, being no longer a block for additional tree trunks, telephone poles. Okay. But beyond my expertise, no, they may be the very best idea. I'm not confident to answer that, but I just observed that at Wright Farm, they turned out not to wear well over 35 years.
Through the chair, there is a combination of white spruce and white pine for the evergreen screening.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Are there any more that I can't see? Any more public comments?
No.
No. Okay, so am I correct in that you're going to the planning board on July 29th?
Is that right, Mike? Do you have that date?
I have not had that confirmed, so I'll take your
Oh,
word
okay.
for it.
Okay,
Stefan?
I know
I
staff,
was just gonna say Stefan may know, they have been in communication, so that he may know if he could jump in. If not, then.
either.
We
Okay,
can
so
hear you.
he said he didn't know.
oh, okay,
Okay.
So that's the date that I was given by the planning board staff.
okay, so we were proposing with that tentative date that you could come back on August 6th after that meeting, but of course, let us know when you're ready to come back with a more final plan.
Okay, and in the interim, perhaps we could have a working session with Delia and to make sure we're on the right track with respect to some of the comments made today.
The comments made today.
Yeah. Does that work for you, Stefan?
Yes, it does.
Okay, what are we looking at for August hearings?
August 6th.
All right, we'll request a continuance to the August 6th hearing for all three notices of intent.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Good,
Okay,
thank you.
great, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
And you, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, so next we have notice of intent for 104 Phillip Farm Road. This is DEP file 13717. Who do we have for this? Is it Scott?
Yes, hi, good evening.
Good evening, Scott.
Hi, Scott Hayes, Foresight Engineering, representing Leo Carine for 104 Phillip Farm Road. It's a proposed building addition project in the buffer zone. I can share my screen. Bring up the plan. This is a house that was built in 1969. Phillip Farm Road is on the south side of Virginia Road, on the Bedford Road side. This is a cul-de-sac. This is the very end of the cul-de-sac. It's a 1 acre lot with an existing house. It was built in 1969. We had wetlands, there's bordering vegetated wetlands shown in green here. It was delineated by Goddard Consulting, and a wetland border report was included in the notice of intent. There's also bordering land subject to flooding on the property shown in slight blue. That is FEMA Zone AE determined by elevation, which we determined by field survey this year, just a few months ago. The area of the existing house, the house is within the 100-foot buffer zone here. The wetland kind of creeps up, so it falls along the rear boundary of the lot, and then it kind of creeps up on the east side here. So this outer red line is the 100-foot buffer zone, and then this is the 50 and the 25, the flood zone. The area of the yard is fully developed. I mean, it's pretty much wide open lawn. There's vegetable garden on the side yard over here on the buffer zone, but the backyard all the way back to where the shed is, this place set, this is all pretty well maintained lawn area right up to the edge of the BBW. The proposal is for him to remove a deck on the back of his house, just to the very extent of the buffer zone, this area here, and construct a building addition shown in purple here. This is the building addition, and replace the deck here. So we're removing about 517 square feet of impervious area within the buffer zone, and I'm sorry, we're adding about 550. So we've got a net increase of 33 square feet of impervious cover. But all of that area is within existing lawn yard area, immediately adjacent to the dwelling, so it's a nominal increase in impervious cover. And what else do I need to tell you? So we're constructing a new deck and stairs here, and then just a portion of the walkway needs to be reconstructed to marry into the existing walkway here around the deck. We've got erosion controls proposed, a fiber roll erosion control barrier shown in yellow here around the limit of work. I also proposed a silt sack in the catch basin at the end of the driveway. It's outside the buffer zone, but there could be tracking of dirt on the driveway. Could impact that catch basin. So I thought it was warranted to throw a silt sack in there. And we designated a stockpile area at the end of the driveway adjacent to the area where the demolition and construction work will be done. That's the project, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Scott, what did you say the difference in square feet is? Did you see 33 feet?
It's a net increase of 33 square feet of
33 square feet, sorry. It would be helpful to have that in a table to show before and after, so it's very clear.
It's listed on in the plan view here.
Oh, it is there? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I can zoom in on that if you'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, but we will need mitigation for the additional 33 square feet. I don't know if that's been discussed with staff already.
Yeah. Ideally, to mention it to me. I if you could provide me some direction on that, it's such a small square footage, what would be warranted, and some.
So I think I gave you, I think I responded to your message, Scott, that 2 shrubs within.
Yeah, 2 shrubs.
Certainly, we can do 2 native shrubs.
Yeah.
He'd been, the owner had planted a couple of trees. These are relatively new trees back here. I don't know what species they are. I'm not an arborist, but.
The other thing that you could consider asking your client is if they would move the existing shed out of the 25 and 50 foot, out of the 25 and 50 and move it to outside the 50-foot no build zone, and that could be considered.
That would be great. That would be terrific.
Yeah.
That would be sufficient.
I think that would be better.
I can ask him. I'd rather not commit to that without consulting with him on it. But I understand you would prefer that to planting mitigation if he would be agreeable to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm just not sure, I'm not sure of the construction, if that's a, you know, it's a pretty old shed. I don't know if it's the kind that we can just easily drag out of there, if it's really fixed to the ground on a slab, or, you know, so I have to look into that. I'm sorry?
I just wanted to chime in. Good evening, everybody. It's a pretty old shed, I gotta tell. I keep my gardening equipment in there,
Mhm.
and I think moving it will completely destroy the structure. It will not survive the move. It's not. It's a really small, really tiny little thing, honestly, and it's pretty much picturesque, and it doesn't really bother anybody there, I think.
Okay.
So
And that-
that's the owner and applicant, that's Leo Curry speaking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
if that doesn't make sense, then we would require the 2 shrubs, please.
We can do that. Do we need a revised plan for that, for you to act on this, or can that be a condition?
Should be on the plan.
Mhm.
It should be on the plan.
Okay. Okay. Well, add to the plan. Anything else I can address for you?
How about the,
Go ahead, Bill, go.
well, how about, I know that from the pictures we have, there's a lot of grass clippings in the wetlands. We think that should be removed, from the wetlands areas. Do you know where that is, Delia, looking at this?
I
map?
don't. Bert did the site visit on this.
All right,
And
Would that
I
be-
should add it, they should be removed by hand, not with mechanical equipment.
yeah,
So that could be conditioned, the removal.
Just want to chime in, just so I can explain what this is. It's actually a compost pile that I use to fertilize my garden.
Okay, but we don't allow them in the 25-foot zone.
Okay, I will move it by hand, not a problem.
Thank you.
anything else?
That's it.
That was
Okay.
all from me. So no other comments from commissioners? No? Are there any public comments on this application?
Can you stop sharing, Scott, please?
Sure.
Thank you. I don't see any
No.
online.
Okay, are you okay to continue the hearing till June 25th, which means the plans would have to be in by Friday at noon, I believe, Delia, that's right? Yeah.
Yes.
If it's a minor change, Scott, so there wouldn't be a need to attend the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can certainly get you a plan by Friday noon. Nope, that's not a problem.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very
We're
much.
good then.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think we have one more application tonight. This is for Concord Public Schools, 29 Prairie Street. It's an RDA, and I don't think we have a complete number yet.
We do, and I'm sorry to put it on the thumbnail. 2510.
2510, thank you very much, Karen. Okay. Okay, I see we have somebody, a representative in the room.
Yes, hello. My name is Tyler King. I'm with CHA Consulting. We're the civil engineer on the project, presenting on behalf of Concord Public Schools. Julie, do you have a site plan, or do you want me to?
I do have a site plan.
I can. Okay.
Well, it has to be online.
Yeah.
Just give me a second. Try to close my window.
Sure, they all have to be online now.
Yep. Sorry, give me 1 second.
No problem.
Yes. Why? The window's open.
Okay, great. So we're here requesting a negative determination for minor impacts within the 200-foot riverfront area to the Escabet River. This is for the Thoreau Elementary School. There's an overall site improvement project that's being proposed here. The encroachment into the 200-foot riverfront area is occurring in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen here. So what we're proposing is a multi-use grass field to plan west for, you know, the school's use, also for the public's use outside of school hours and on the weekends for multiple sport purposes. So in order to do that, we're proposing some grading to level off that area. And some of that grading and disturbance is encroaching into the riverfront. The disturbance around the field is proposed to be replaced in kind to match the existing conditions. There's also erosion controls, filter sock proposed around the limited disturbance, and there are filter sacks within the catch basins interior to the property, kind of in that central courtyard area. In addition, there's an existing asphalt path that wraps around, right there from the front to the back. It kind of meanders in an S shape within the 200-foot riverfront. Currently, the plan here, what's proposed is to just put one smooth curve into that path, which ultimately removes approximately 400 square feet of impervious area from the riverfront. And then the disturbed area within the riverfront adjacent to that would be revegetated with ground cover and reinforced in that manner. Similarly, south, there's an existing playground area. It's to the left of the basketball court, that rectangle in the middle of the
Can you get
page.
closer in that, Delia, for us to see that area down where he's talking now, Cameron?
Where's the basketball?
So the basketball court is the big rectangle right there. So to the left is a square that's not hashed. That's an existing playground. To the south of that, the area is in the west is denuded. It's bare soil. So what would be proposed there, similar to along the path, is supplement with additional topsoil as needed and ground cover to reestablish that area. And then, so that's the work within the jurisdiction. And then there's also some a new playground expansion on the southeast of the plan, which displaces an existing gravel parking lot. So that parking lot is proposed to be replaced, or the existing parking lot is going to be reconfigured to replace those displaced parking spaces.
So that's all right now, just a large gravel area, you're just redesigning it, is that what's happening in that area?
So the top portion of that parking lot is kind of a diagonal hatch on it.
I see it,
That's
yeah.
the existing parking lot. There's an existing gravel lot that kind of perpendiculars into that page north and south on the left end of it, coming down to where the playground is.
Okay,
So we're essentially taking that gravel lot, flipping it 90 degrees and butting it up against the existing parking lot.
okay.
And with that, there's two ADA parking spaces, as the proposed playground will be an accessible playground. So there will be connectivity between the accessible parking spaces and the playground spaces.
And then what happens down below towards the river? What's that? Is that outside our jurisdiction?
Nothing.
Nothing?
The only work within our jurisdiction is very minimal,
Okay,
just what was described.
So, okay. I have no comments.
yeah, no, I don't even.
I have a question. I mean, so this gravel parking lot that's being removed was a temporary parking lot that was put in at the time. I think they had a fire and they had to do some reconstruction on the building. And so they put in this temporary parking lot while several classrooms were, or temporary classrooms were put in or something like that. But so are we looking at the removal of this temporary gravel parking lot as a recovery of impervious area? Or is that, I mean, because it was kind of put in there on an emergency basis, but now it's like we're increasing the size of the permanent impervious by, you know, doubling the size of this parking lot that's up to the north or top of the plan.
That's all outside the jurisdictional area, Gary.
Yeah, it's outside the jurisdiction. I mean, I guess the gravel parking lot was also sort of outside the jurisdiction, but yeah.
I can just comment and say that any additional impervious area will be mitigated through underground stormwater detention on the project site.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So my understanding is that overall there'll be a 500 square foot overall reduction of impervious surface, which is clearly an improvement.
In the riverfront.
Yeah,
Jurisdiction.
thank you. Okay.
Public comment? Public comment? Is there any public comment? You call for it. No?
No? Okay, I believe we're ready to issue a negative determination then if somebody has.
Do you have it
ready?
Yeah, I move that we issue regarding let's see, the Concord Public Schools RDA 25-10. Issue a negative determination 23 with the following conditions. 1, a pre-construction site visit shall be held with DNR staff, the applicant and contractor prior to commencement of work. 2, after the project has been completed, the applicant shall submit a letter to the NRC stating that all work had been conducted in accordance with all conditions of this determination of applicability. Any changes from the RDA shall be described.
So I apologize. I think that is meant to be a number 3 determination, not 23.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Issue a negative determination number 3, et cetera.
I second that.
Number 3. Okay, thank you very much, Bill. And the vote, Nick?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. Okay, we still have quite a lot to get through. So next we have a minor modification for 90B Walden Street.
Hello, my name is Nat Tipton. I work as a project manager with the DCR architecture section. With me this evening is Dominic Rinaldi with BSC Group and Tim Nickerson with Ray Dennis Landscape Architecture. And yeah, we just want to run through our request for a minor modification having to do with phase 2 of our Main Beach Universal Access Improvement Project. You probably know that we're undergoing phase 1 right now with that project, where we're constructing a new bathhouse for the Walden Pond Main Beach. After that, phase 2 will construct a access ramp that will connect the Route 126 crosswalk to the Main Beach Plaza, so that all of our visitors can access and use the Main Beach. The main part of this request has to do with making changes to how we want to handle stormwater on the plaza. There's a portion of that plaza that's being handled under phase 1, so we're requesting that we make those same changes for phase 2 on a different part of the plaza. So I will hand it off to Dominic here, who will explain further.
Good evening. As Nat said, Dominic Rinaldi with BSC Group. We're the civil engineers for the site portion of the project. If I may share my screen.
Please go ahead. You should have access.
All right, excellent. Okay. So this is sort of the overall picture of the overall project with the 2 phases. The access down, the phase 2, the boardwalk coming in, the new bathhouse. And the area we're particularly talking about is this portion of the existing plaza. The pond, by the way, just to situate, is page south. So sort of zooming in, you can see that area. This is the bathhouse that's currently under construction. And
Dominic,
this,
can you make it even bigger for us?
sure. Better?
Much better, yeah, thank you.
All right. Zoom in a little more. So this is the bathhouse under construction, pond, page south again. So basically right now in phase one, sort of this portion of the existing plaza is being rebuilt. And if you recall from the existing order of conditions, the wall and the stairs have these scuppers cut into them. The wall actually sits up a little higher than the plaza, and under previous existing conditions, stormwater just ran off from the plaza towards the pond. If I may, just to clarify something, if you've been down there, or maybe it's been a while and you just remember, that plaza is pavers, but their pavers actually set on concrete, so it is not a pervious surface. It is very much impervious. So all that stormwater just ran off through. You can sort of see those scuppers in the plan here. This portion of the site that'll sort of be, that originally was proposed to just remain the same. What we're proposing to do, again, fill in those scuppers on the wall, redo this portion of the plaza in the same manner that the portion in front of the new bathhouse is getting done, and just regrade it back to a small rain garden that would be situated in this nook created by the future accessible route down to the beach. Small rain garden, simply planted. It's about 6 or 8 inches deep at its maximum. We've submitted an updated stormwater report that is an update from the report that was part of the original order of conditions that includes this area being routed to, which had been previously routed directly to the pond, to this bioretention area, rain garden, tomato, whichever you'd like to call it, where it infiltrates, provides some recharge to groundwater and some stormwater treatment. There's no new impervious surface proposed. There's no change to peak flows to the pond. This is really just about making things a little better, providing a little bit of an improvement to the water quality that flows into the pond itself, while being able to, create another small attractive feature along the pond. In addition to the calculations, we've updated the operation and maintenance plan in there to include inspections and maintenance procedures for the rain garden itself. There's sort of one other item in the overall minor modification, but if you have any questions on the stormwater portion of it, I'd gladly answer them now.
No.
Is there a planting plan for the rainwater garden?
It's gonna be pretty simple. A wetland seed mix. It's a type of mix that can handle that occasional inundation. As you know, obviously this is a very sandy soil. It'll infiltrate very quickly, but in really big storms, you can expect in a flash where, to infiltrate, you don't want to kill off the planting. And it is very small areas, so it's not wouldn't handle a lot of shrubs or large plants.
Okay, got it. Okay, any concerns or questions from the commissioners?
No.
Oh, sounds great.
Yeah, and any public comment?
Not seeing any.
No, great.
Do I
Okay.
make a move?
Yeah, just real quick, just so we dot all the i's and cross all the t's. There is one other portion, as you've probably heard, just to facilitate construction this summer. And Nat, you may have to remind me because I forget the name of this beach by the bathhouse. Will be closed for the season.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah, and we've included, again, just to dot the i's and cross the t's.
Yes, thank you very
we've included
much.
that temporary fence that'll be placed there as part of this minor modification.
Okay.
Thanks, Dominic. All
Absolutely.
right, so I'm gonna move that we support to approve the minor modification to the project DEP file 1371507 at 90B Walden Street. Seconded.
Thank you very much. And the vote, Nick,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you very
We're all
much.
set?
Good
Thank
evening.
you.
Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, Delia, please could you talk us through the certificates of compliance?
Are they all complete?
They're all complete
And that's
and
all we have to know.
recommending that they're ready for issuance.
I move that we issue certificates of compliance for Bentley Building Corporation, 134 Southfield Road, DEP file number 137-994. Bentley Building Corporation, 174 Wright Road, DEP file number 137-1494. Minuteman National Historic Park, 5B and 34 Old Bedford Road, and 78A, 85A, 751, 965, and 102A Lexington Road, DEP file 137-1598. And Minuteman National Historic Park, 737 Lexington Road, DEP file number 137-1665, and Sudbury Valley Trustees, 10X Old Bedford Road, DEP file number 137-1665, and Bramhall, 607 Main Street, DEP file number 137-1361.
One more?
One more.
She,
Yeah.
is it on your list?
It's not, oh, and,
Is it on the agenda?
I'm looking, oh, and she, 11 White Avenue, DEP file number 137-345.
I second that move.
Thank you very much, Bill. And the vote, Nick,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, other business. First, we have MCI redevelopment.
So Sarah, could I make a suggestion? I see that John Cooley is here in the audience and he's the fourth other business.
Of course, let's move to that.
Yeah, okay.
So this is for 1440 Main Street.
Yes, purchase lot A1 for public park. Hi, John. I'm not sure, he might have stepped away because he didn't think he was gonna be up just yet. So maybe just proceed as you were, sorry.
Okay. So let's start with the MCI redevelopment discussion then. And if you see John come back, please let me know and then we can jump to him as soon as we move to the next one. So, this was just to see if we had any comments to share. Okay, so I know Gary submitted some thoughts. Remind me where we are. So I know that they held 2 sessions and are collecting. I think there are some more sessions planned coming up with their proposals to date. Does anybody know any more than that?
No.
I mean,
Do
I
you wanna
did
table-
attend one
Table this discussion to June 25th?
Yeah, I'd say, why don't we table this discussion? if we
Yeah,
could?
no, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, I'll come more prepared for that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Any sign of John being back?
I don't think so.
No. Okay, so Town of Concord Land Use Working Group.
Actually, I think he is back. He just.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Oh, hey, guys.
Oh,
Just heard
good,
my name.
thanks.
John, we were going to jump ahead in the agenda so that you could have an earlier night.
Oh, okay. Yep, that makes sense. Want me to come back on the 25th?
No. I mean, we are ready for you now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Yeah, I was doing the dishes.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So I gotta say, I'm a little new to this. Just to set expectations, and also let me know if you can't hear me, but I am not an architect, I'm not a general contractor, I'm not a developer, but I have initiated this process of trying to reserve land for public use in the 1440 Main Street development, and I've seemed to have gathered some support for that. So I think that this is mainly for informational purposes, and I think Delia, suggested that the process of acquiring land like this starts with the NRC, and I think this is a starting point. So I'm just going to run through a little bit of the background and then the sort of the concept. I imagine you're all familiar with the proposed development. It's in the late stages of approval, if not already approved. And it's going to replace the forested area that with the new housing development. And obviously there's more background online. I don't need to read this to you. I think you know this, but the basis of the process is on subdivision rules and regulations, section 620, for reservation of land for public purpose. And the lot that we're focused on is the lot A1 circled in the drawing there. So it's right at the sort of 90-degree bend of Highland Street as it heads toward Main Street. And the concept there is to attempt to reserve that land, acquire it, and then construct it as a pocket park. And I'll talk a little bit more about the reasoning. Sort of brief overview of history. So there's a letter dated November 2020, which I wrote in support of reserving land generally for public purpose, according to section 620, as I stated. And then there was a much more recent letter dated May 2025 in support of purchasing land for public purpose further to that letter, and it was signed by 23 households representing a number of different nearby areas, Highland Street, of course, but also Main Street, Chase Road, and Church Street. Concept and benefits. So there's no public wooded or open space between Main Street and the railroad today. The development is going to remove significant wooded space. I mentioned that. And we think there's an opportunity for the town to create a small park or a pocket park. Concept being that it's a partially wooded green space there on that land. And so the new green spaces will be accessible to both new and existing residents. And we like to say it will be a joining space between the new development and the existing neighborhood. We also think, based on the lot A1, the way that it's situated, it will be a practical means for residents of the new development to access the town center and the train station on foot. Maybe just to highlight that. So, the train station, if you can see my cursor, the train station is obviously to the east along Highlands. They can walk along Highland Street, and lot A1 could be a means for accessing that as opposed to Main Street. These are just concepts pulled from the internet to give a sense of, I think, what some of the community members might have in mind when they think of a pocket park in that space. It's partially wooded, it's maybe got some seating, access to nature, maybe a throughway for different purposes. And then we think that the concept aligns pretty well with the West Concord Village Master Plan. I should also point out I'm a member of the WCAC. And so I've been sort of on in the discussions about the master plan and updating things and so forth. The master plan calls for the creation of new open spaces and public amenities in the village for both active and passive recreational uses. And then we also think it generally aligns with the town's aspirations for connectivity near the commuter rail and commercial centers, and obviously to preserve and increase tree canopy for environmental sustainability. So really what we're doing now is socializing the concept with stakeholders. We've already presented this to the WCAC. I presented it to the WCAC sort of as a member of the public. And I'm presenting it to you now. And again, there was a letter submitted, which I think some of you may have seen, had a number of signatures that sort of outlines a lot of these concepts in a little bit more detail. And then my understanding of this is that we're moving in the direction of trying to gain support for the submission for CPA funds to purchase the lot as sort of a next concrete step. And then the ask basically, I think here is, feedback and ideas, and then obviously support in any form that it comes.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
So would you say that the proposed use of this is just passive recreation, or is there a plan to be a playground or such like as well?
It might be too early to say. I can't say that we're in any kind of like a design phase. And I imagine that would come from more detailed input from community members, perhaps, as we go forward in the process. I would imagine that it's not a huge lot. I think the first priority in many people's minds, the first priority is sort of preserving some form of the green space that exists today that's gonna go away, and providing a little bit of a buffer between a little bit of a buffer or joining space between the two neighborhoods. As far as a playground, I think there are a lot of kids around, certainly on Highland Street and Main Street. And it would be nice, but I think it may be too early to tell if that really fits the school.
Well, a key reason for asking is because obviously if there's some active recreation there, the recreation committee would be another one to talk to. But also when you go to CPA for funding, they will need to understand whether, because their funds are split across different criteria, recreation being one, and then just general, I can't remember what the term is, Bill, can you use it?
Space.
Space, thank you. Open space is another. So it's really whether the whole jurisdiction would come under NRC or whether it would be split across different groups, and the funding piece as well.
And I think just to add to that, just seeing some of the images that you presented, John, I think it may be that there's, an interest to have more of a, maintained parcel than what's typical for, NRC. Usually we have trails and benches. I mean, that's kind of the extent of what NRC does. And so it may be that the commission wants to consider, support of the green space to the select board, but not necessarily under the care and custody of the NRC.
Right.
Maybe it's just left under the select board custody to be maintained as a, open space for the neighborhood, but not necessarily, it's much more restricted when it's NRC. It's limited to conservation purposes. And so I think that's something, John, for you to talk with the neighborhood about and just try and figure out where you want this to land, but also to understand if it is held by or under custody of the NRC, that it's very passive.
It's not near any wetlands or anything, is it? We wouldn't, it's not, no, so we're not, it doesn't come under that. No, okay, good.
There are
And then the other thing
wetlands.
just to-
There are wetlands in the development, but they're all towards the train tracks in the back.
Right.
They're not
Plan
jurisdictional.
north.
They're non-jurisdictional, all those wetlands in the back?
They're non-jurisdictional wetlands.
Mm.
They're subject to federal regulation, but not state or local. The other thing just to keep in mind, so the clock started ticking when this decision was recorded at the Registry of Deeds, which was I think it was May 29th of this year. It just came back. The remanded decision was just issued by ZBA. So the select board has 3 years upon which to act upon this. So there's a little bit of time to think about, what the neighborhood and the town wants to do in order to proceed but so.
So I would say that we're certainly open to seeing this as open space. I think we can even vote as, as a committee that we believe in seeing this as open space without saying anything more about whether, and recommend that it be looked at by the select board. And then John can come back and develop this plan as to what it'll actually look like.
I have a comment. I like your idea about providing a way to improve mobility into West Concord through that lot. I happen to be in the Transportation Advisory Committee, and it's something that they would really support. However, I don't see how it's practical with all of those other lots around it. I mean, I imagine if we're really gonna provide a benefit of that sort for the whole development, you'd have to have a path that went from the new right of way to lot 1A. Which would be a wonderful thing. Maybe you could achieve it through easements or something, but I really like the idea of getting, foot traffic and bicyclists away from Main Street and using Highland Street to get over to Church Street. I think that would be a great thing. That's a real neighborhood thing, and it draws them into the community.
Yeah, and if you're familiar with that section of Main Street, you sort of, in this development, you're gonna come out and it's gonna be a really busy kind of front
Fast.
and
Yeah.
sidewalk, kind of like a.
Yeah, so I mean, if
poorly
the
designed
developer can help you make that happen so that there's some kind of connection from lot 1A over to road A or road B, then that's a real thing and not
Yeah.
just a.
I believe that there is, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I believe that there's also 5-foot easement across lot 13 to road B.
My
Is that correct?
understanding, and again, I'm a little bit out of my expertise here, but my understanding is there is a conversation about an easement that would allow access to lot A1. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's really important. It has a big community benefit if you can do that.
I think that was in the decision. Let me just see if I can find it.
So we're.
And you would get the support of the Transportation Advisory Committee, I suspect.
Yeah, I think it would be a win-win. It'd be value add for the new community. I think it would be a nice way to connect things, and yeah.
Okay, so
Julia, it's in there. It's number 3 on the top of page 81.
Very impressive.
You're a fast.
That's not
I know
Gary.
that is fast. I don't have 81 pages. I have 24.
Yeah, page 14 of 24. The fax calls it 81, but page 14 of 24.
Got
The
you.
board specifically finds number 3, the public access easement across lot 13 allows for pedestrian connectivity between the subdivision lots to the public park.
Great, that's great.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Right, so from road B across lot 13 to lot A1.
That's good.
Yeah.
You've got it. Yeah, as I
Good.
said, I mean, I think
Yeah.
you'd get good support from the community for that.
Yeah.
It would help with CPA.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you for the feedback. Is there any definitive next
you
step
could-
to
if you
take
could-
here on the
if you-
meeting, or?
If I could get a copy of that one slide there.
You have it.
I have it.
Yeah, you have it. It was in an email.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Yep. So do we need to do a motion?
Or do we just?
Delia?
I don't think at this
No.
point, I
No.
mean, I think,
Later on, when there's a letter of support or something, we can
Yeah.
do that.
I think you'd say though,
Okay.
John, that you received a lot of support at the
Yeah.
committee meeting, and
Yep.
the minutes would reflect that anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, John.
Yep.
Okay, so we're now ready to discuss the Town of Concord Land Use Working Group.
Okay, this was the thing that Mark Galis
brought up at the
suggested.
last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to speak in support of it, in the sense that I don't think we need an NRC member or representative in that working group, but I think the NRC and the department should really look at every piece of property that's in that matrix they're creating and decide if there's some particular thing we think is important that needs to be preserved or enhanced on that property from the natural resources perspective. And I will give one example. Recently, Mark took me out on a walk I'd never taken, which is behind this property, along the old rail embankment, right to the edge of the Sudbury River.
Yep.
That is one of the most beautiful sights in Concord.
Yeah, it's a trail back there. It's a beautiful
And
North
that,
trail.
you know, whatever's done, it's a shame that nothing's been done with this property to make that more available to the public so far, but that's an example of something that in the redevelopment of this property, which probably won't happen for another 10 or 15 years, if that could be a key part of it.
We have a marked bounded trail.
Yeah, I know, but somehow nobody knows about it.
There's people out there.
It's the calf pasture trails. You
Yeah.
can see them.
Right,
right?
yeah, you stumble through the parking lot.
Well, one thing that, you know, we had talked about those benches for the
Yeah, no, I
250.
don't wanna get into
I
it.
do wanna there's one across at Macomb Park
Okay,
that would be really nice relocated
oh.
there
yes.
because there's no good view
Right,
at
I agree.
Macomb Park. So
Anyway,
we could, that could help with the
but-
public.
Right, but that's
know,
my point.
enjoyment.
I suspect there are other properties that are gonna be in their matrix that, you know, that we might make some suggestions about how to, make good use of the natural resources that are there. That's all.
So do you think, does an NRC member want to be a liaison to this committee?
I think we wanna be involved somehow. I don't know
Mhm.
if it's hard getting liaisons really to go to meetings, so. I mean, it's a lot of work, right? Cause we have these meetings every 3 weeks and, they're gonna meet a lot. They're gonna meet a lot for a year.
I probably deserve it, but I don't know.
I'll say one other, the fact is, this property here is a great example because this is right on the river and this never would have been developed today. The
Right.
way it was developed 100 years ago,
Right.
right? And that's, so the redevelopment of this particular piece of land really takes some thought, you know, which is, are we just gonna have all this impervious again when it gets redeveloped? Yeah, so that's it. That's my example.
So Delia, if it's a liaison, it doesn't have to be somebody actually on the NRC, does it?
You could structure it any way that you like. I mean, you can say a current or former member of the NRC.
And the person would just sit at the meetings. Is that the idea? Not
report
be a
back.
book and report back.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you can think about it and maybe bring it up at the next, do you want to table it to the,
I would table,
Continue the
let's think
discussion.
about the next meeting, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It is a worthwhile thought. I did see Mark after you had spoken with him, and he did mention your idea about this, which was, you know, having a kind of a liaison.
Mm.
Meeting, Nick.
Yeah. The way I'm imagining it is through the liaison or any other way we do it, we wind up creating something like a report on each property that sort of outlines what our thoughts are on its redevelopment.
I definitely agree with the direction Nick is heading. I mean, obviously I've already weighed in about the NRC and natural resources potential of the MCI property, but you know, as a member of the 2229 committee, I've been trying to actively pay attention to the NRC values at that site. But yeah, you're right, Nick. All of these sites have some natural resource implications and value that should be considered.
Yeah,
okay. We'll put this on the agenda for the next
please,
meeting.
that'd be good.
Wetlands fee structure.
Yeah, wetlands fee structure. Delia shared the draft of that. Are you just looking for comments for this, Delia?
Yes, so just as backgrounds, the town manager and board of, select board goals, one of them is to increase, revenue for the town. The wetlands bylaw does not currently have fees associated with it, and so this was an attempt to look at surrounding communities, most of which do have wetland bylaw fees, and to suggest recommended fees for the commission to consider.
Do you have any idea what the revenue would have been in a random year or this past year? Or-
Well, it's hard to say because the categories are different.
Right.
Right, but assuming we have about 45 notice of intent filings
A year,
a year. You know, I mean, I can run those numbers.
a rough, yeah.
It's not a whole lot of money,
I was
you
gonna
know,
say, yeah.
probably a couple thousand, you know, couple to under, less than 10, I would say.
Would this go to the general funds or?
It would go to the general
General
fund.
funds.
Whereas
There's no
the-
way you can have that directed to natural resources.
That's, the whole point is to raise town revenue. And the state wetlands fees go into a revolving account that's only used for administration of Wetlands Protection Act, you know, so that is those state fees, which are very minimal. See, and 20, you know, 67 or $110 for, you know, most of the applications. And half goes to the state. That goes into a
Yeah.
specific commission fund, but it's
Okay.
very, very specific on how it can be spent.
Okay.
Well, I support the idea of doing it. I just-
Yeah, I do too. I thought
doesn't
it
seem
made
like
a lot of sense.
Sorry?
It doesn't seem like a substantial amount of money is likely to flow in, but.
No, it's not gonna be like the building permits
Yeah.
that are, you know,
Delia, how much more work though? Is the extra work gonna come down to staff? Because if staff's been reduced and the town's asking us to do this, then that's a bit of a conflict there.
Couldn't that
Well,
just go over?
I'm hoping that this is not a reduction. I'm hoping that this is a temporary hold.
Okay, good.
Bert's position is being reevaluated at the end of July, so
July, okay.
I'm not assuming that there's going to be a reduction in staff.
Good, okay,
I
well,
think typically when there's revenue coming in, they take care of it over at the townhouse, right? You don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, Karen processes all the fees that come in for everything, you know, so for community gardens and
Mhm.
agricultural license agreements and wetlands filings, and it will be an additional, you know, what I imagine it will be you know, a second check that needs to get processed. I'll ask Karen.
That's how I see it happening.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, first I have to process it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
so yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's a good thing. I think
Mhm.
I think it would be, you
Yeah.
know, necessary, yeah.
So I think with this, Sarah, we had talked about having a, you know, sort of preliminary discussion about this and then tabling it to a future meeting, just so people have time to digest the fee structure. You know, if you have questions about how,
Well, like on the Public Works Commission, you would have an actual rate hearing for something like this, right? We should have a public hearing for it.
It has to go to town meeting, doesn't it, Delia?
yeah,
You
so
said-
this could be considered a public hearing for it. We would, I think we would establish a separate, this is just on the agenda as an
Right.
agenda item. We would have a public hearing, but Sarah, you're right, when the bylaw was passed in 2009, there was a motion made on the floor of town meeting that any regulations that the commission passed would need to go back to town meeting.
Okay.
So that's an additional step
Okay.
that would have to occur.
All right.
And
Just
you
no
can-
delay.
Yeah, I mean, you can consider, you know, having any additional changes to the regulations if you think there
Mhm.
need to be any that would go on the warrant, you know, by the end of this year. But that would need to happen, town meeting approval, and you can
Should we-
consider ask. Sorry,
If
go
we,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, if we agree, you know, coming back to it in another meeting so that everybody can take another look and just make sure there's no recommendations for changes. And then I'm just wondering if a public hearing could be combined with anything else, or it would just be, or when you,
I think
or would we be able to just do it at this meeting, just with more notice or something in the paper or whatever?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you just put it on an agenda as a public hearing. or a
Okay, that
public
makes sense. Okay.
hearing. Yeah.
Tabling us to a
Mhm.
specific date.
Do you wanna also put this on June 25th?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
okay. Okay, we'll do that.
Okay, so that was all of the other business. We now have, I haven't got the agenda in front of me. Is it the violation letter next?
Yeah, we do have, Crossy Deal is here, and so we can go to that. We have another one after that, but, we
The
can-
administrative approval.
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Cassie, Dylan. I'm here this evening with my partner, Anson James. We live at 85 The Valley Road. Over the last year and a half, we've had 3 dead trees that fall on our property. And, about 3 weeks ago, a tree fell in our backyard. And a large branch from another newly missed Miss Anson. So out of concern for the safety of our children, we hired a tree removal company soon after to address some of this hazardous trees. And it was somewhat unclear to us in the tree removal guidelines whether removing trees for the safety, particularly when they pose a danger to a structure or to people, is allowed without needing further approval. So we subsequently received a letter from DOE stating we were in violation of the tree removal guidelines. So we're here tonight to request an exemption from the board that requires us to survey the property and identify wetland borders as well, and to simply remove up to 5 trees that pose a danger, most importantly to our children, but also to the safety of our home. So I know Dilly was here a couple of days ago on Monday to look at the trees that are in subject, and she allowed us to be here this evening. Again, our request is to be exempt from the board, just having to survey prior and then do wetland delineation prior to removing the 5 trees that pose a danger.
So the tree removal guidelines does clearly state that notification to the Natural Resources Director is required prior to any removal. So I would disagree that it's not clear. It does clearly say that. Are you planning to do any other work on the land at all in the near future? No.
That's the only thing that we wanted to address. So again, it was a simple mistake on our part by not clearly understanding the guidelines, the tree bylaw. And as I said to Julia, there was no bad intentions on our part. We just misunderstood the tree removal. And yes, we should have contacted the Natural Resources. And again, it was no.
Understood.
I apologize. We just.
Understood. Well, in situations like this, we're always in a difficult position in that we don't want to set a precedence for others to take advantage of. So I'll open it up to the rest of the commission to see what their thoughts are.
Yeah, I just wanted to get clarification on the status. I mean, so a tree fell, but how many trees have been removed, and how many trees are there still 5 trees that you would like to remove, or have all 5 trees been removed?
No, there are 3 trees that have fallen already over the past year and a half-ish. There's one that broke about 4 feet up and fell and is leaning against another tree. I don't know if you can see in that picture, but not any of those trees because they're already down or leaning. There were 3 or 2.5 that were taken down. So there's the half that we would take down, and then 2 additional dead trees.
Yeah, just to provide from a staff perspective, so we got notice of some tree removals occurring, and when I went out to the property a couple of weeks ago, there were about a dozen trees that had been marked for removal. 2 were down, and 1 was in the process. And they, you know, there was a lot of leafy material that was down on the ground as well. I think there's some dieback in those trees. You could see in the remaining 2, so there's two remaining that the homeowners are asking to remove. One is clearly dead, probably not within the vicinity of hitting the house or the driveway, but certainly in the vicinity of the backyard. And then the second one, you know, has some dieback, but is, you know, got some, you know, full canopy as well. So, and I mean, I am not an arborist, but from my assessment, they were not in the vicinity of hitting the house, as I said, but you know, one of them was the one that is, it was a Norway maple that's currently partially taken down, and they're looking to remove that fully. at this
Partially
point.
means what? The crown has been removed or?
It means that the landscapers, you know, they start from the top, they
They
limbed it up,
started.
climbed it, and they started cutting it, but they hadn't finished it. So that was
So
what they were
crown-
cutting when I got out
But
there.
there were 12 trees marked for removal.
There were more than 5, and then
Is
the
that-
homeowners.
Because that makes me wonder. I mean, the homeowners say that they were working with their understanding of what the tree removal guideline says and the confusion about whether you needed to be contacted for 5 trees. But if actually 12 trees were marked, then clearly the plan wasn't to work within the guidelines anyway.
Marking the trees did not mean we wanted to cut the trees. Those were just for, we were here to guide the tree person on what to work on. It wasn't the intention to take 12 trees.
Okay.
And they were not actually even 12 trees that were marked.
The issue is that these are in the jurisdictional area, in
Mhm.
where? We don't know because it's not flagged.
Yeah, I mean, some are within the 25.
Mhm.
They range. I mean, most are in the 25, 0 to 25, 25 to 50, and then there's some that are in the outer.
So,
But that's a guess without having a
I think
delineation.
it's hard to say anything for me without seeing at least a plot plan to see where the house is, where these trees are.
Mhm.
So, I don't know if there's any, if we
Well,
can accept. a
But
sketch.
also, Nick, the discussion is not just about the trees coming down, it's about whether we follow through with the usual requirement of having the area mapped out.
Right, so. I mean, I'd be willing to start with just some. I'd like to not have to go immediately to having them do the expense of a survey and
Right.
the wetlands flagging, if we can get some rough idea through a sketch, they could, I don't know how they would do it, but a sketch and some rough idea from the GIS map of where the wetlands might be. So we can just get a general sense of whether or not to pursue this with a lot more
Mhm.
detail, okay?
I don't know, Nick, I'm thinking, you know, I think it'd be, you start that, then we'll have other people doing the same thing. I wonder whether we ought just ask for an after the fact notice of intent and within the delineation of the wetlands. They'll know then what they can do, we'll know what they can do, they may have intentions at that point to remove some more trees, but we'll know what those trees are.
Yeah,
So,
yes, but my concern is that then quickly leads to the need for a survey, which is a couple of $1,000s.
well, so is even cutting those trees.
Yeah,
If you're gonna cut down 5 trees, it's gonna cost you a couple of $1,000s.
Right.
oh, at least, at least.
Probably, yeah, right? It's gonna,
Especially
Dina, you mentioned one was a Norway maple. Is that the only one that's a Norway maple? Because obviously they're invasive, so you know, generally that's not a concern.
Yes, one of the 5 remaining marked, was a Norway maple.
so the one that came down was a Norway maple and one of the others that's been marked as.
One it was in the process of being cut down.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
And the other 4 are not.
correct.
Okay.
Well, there's a picture of one that's been cut down, right?
Well, that was the one that fell during the last.
There were 2 that had been cut, and then these additional were
Okay, all right.
proposed for removal.
I see.
So if I may just add something to one of your comments about the trees and location to the 100-foot buffer zone or between 75, 50 and 25. It's it's between 50 and 100, and perhaps one of the trees is between 50 and 25. And the trees again that we're discussing tonight, and per Delia's observation on Monday, at least one of those trees that's fully dead. There are signs the tree is dead. And to one of the commissioner's point, again, going through survey wetland delineation, it's in our opinion, it's unnecessary. It's more what happens, whatever the commission requires of us for next steps, what happens between now and 3 or 6 weeks from now. If something happens and one of those trees fall down that we're discussing tonight, whose responsibility for any possible damages that be? Is it me or us trying to work with you and doing what's right? Yes, we did not understand the bylaw. And I admitted it. We did not, I'm not trying to create a precedent for this. We're trying to make it right after the fact. Understand. We both understand we should have we should have taken a different path. We understand that. Like, and we're not trying to create a precedent for other people that are in this situation.
Do you have any other Norway maples on the property? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm not a arborist.
Okay, you don't know. Okay.
So we don't have any letter from an arborist. That is something that the commission could consider requesting. The commission could consider allowing the removal of the trees, retaining the stumps, and then having an after the fact filing with, the information provided, which would address the potential safety concern, or the GIS survey that Nick mentioned. I mean, I think the commission has some options.
So the safety concern, can you explain that a bit more? This is why you want to take down the trees? Were they all dying or?
Safety concern is the 3 trees that have fallen down for the last 2.5. Those were clearly dead trees.
Right, but the 5 that we're talking about today.
They were part of the trees that we cut down were dead. And I have pictures. I don't know. I should have done a presentation, but this is a dead tree.
Okay.
Well, so there were some dead limbs. There were clearly, there's some limbs that could have been pruned that were dead. There was dead wood in the trees. I don't.
But it's funny. We're just talking informally here. We really need a survey to know what's going on, don't we? I mean, that's obvious, isn't it? That's the least we need to have, is to know what we're dealing with out there.
A survey as far as where the trees are or where the property lines are, because they are within our property. We know that for sure from the town GIS. We know it's.
Yeah, I know your property lines are, but I mean, in terms of the wetland delineation and the trees that are in the wetlands, I think we ought to know what we're dealing with.
This is buffer zone based on the GIS map where the location of the houses, the north side. They are inside the 100-foot buffer zone. That's why it's very clear the trees are inside and under the jurisdiction of NRC.
Yeah, which is why we are discussing and why Delia said that we should apply the usual process in this situation.
I mean, I think we would understand why you would want to take out a Norway maple, especially a dead or dying one, another dying tree. But if there are live trees and it matters whether they're inside the 50 or outside the 50, inside the 25 or outside the 25, but without the commission knowing which trees are alive, which trees are dead, which ones are inside the 50, which ones are outside the 50, it's hard for us to know. So you could sketch them out on that plan, but typically the normal process is that a surveyor goes out and marks where they are, and we have the information.
An arborist or a wetlands specialist.
So maybe I don't understand, but the administrative way of removing up to 5 trees without surveying or wetlands
So, right, I mean, just to address that point, I mean, there is that process with the administrative approval that you
Mhm.
can request it, then staff goes out and evaluates. But then when it moves into, a violation and after the fact, the typical approach is the letter that you received, which is the same letter that anybody who is not in compliance with the regulation, does work that is not authorized, gets a similar letter. And it is requested to file, to flag the wetlands, survey the property and submit a notice of intent as an after the fact. I mean, it's meant to be a deterrent, as we talked about, when we met I guess last week, Krasi. So that's the typical procedure for the commission, and kind of what I think they're wrestling with right now.
And also, would we usually ask for some sort of mitigation, or we would consider whether any mitigation is needed?
Yeah, we are aware of that if
Mhm. But again, it'd be really hard to discuss that unless we knew the delineation and such like.
Yeah, so let's see, I'm trying to think about what the minimum is that we need to even think about this properly. So that would be something like getting the wetlands flagged. It means a wetlands specialist, what's the right term?
Yeah,
Wetland scientist, to go on site and flag the wetlands and if that person's competent as an arborist to give an evaluation of not just where the trees are, but their health and their species, that would be good if you could get all that done. Now,
And
do we need
the
a plot
potential
survey?
hazard.
Pardon?
And the potential hazard,
The
like
potential for
how
hazard,
tall is the tree and how far is it from the house?
right. So do we
And I
need
was
a lot?
thinking if you did have any other Norway maples in the area, that might be a nice mitigation to take down a Norway maple, but I'm just voicing that out loud without, a lot of thought.
Now, to do the flagging, you really do need the lot surveyed, right? Or not?
Yeah.
Yes, so typically, we're talking about a wetland scientist going out to flag the property and that flagging being done in the context of an actual survey of the lot so that we know where the boundaries are and, where the wetlands are with respect to that and where the house sits on the property. And then an indication on the plan of where the various trees are that we're talking about and their health and their species. Because otherwise, we can't make a decision otherwise, because we don't have any facts.
But can I just ask a question? I mean, but for the violation, because this violation has already happened, we're following this procedure. But for the violation, we could have an arborist go out, identify hazard trees, and we could give an administrative approval for up to 5 removals.
If we know where the wetlands are.
Well,
Well-
I mean, for administrative approvals, we will use the
You'll
GIS.
use the
Yeah.
GIS.
Right,
Okay.
right. So correct, Gary, but for the
Good.
violation. that's
It's
right.
really because there's been a violation that we're looking for a little bit of extra scrutiny as to exactly what is being asked to remove here relative to its location and the wetlands and so forth. So that does require the.
Well, the request from the applicants, if you like, the violators, is that because they didn't understand the tree removal guidelines, that we let them
Waive.
off doing it, waive it,
Yeah.
waive is the word, thank you.
And I have no problem with the Norway maple removal,
Yeah.
rising that. And I have no problem actually, if we had a certified arborist declaring that there was one more tree that was a hazard tree, I would even waive that. But if you want to remove 5 more trees, I think we need an NOI application to support that. That's, I mean, sort of where I'm coming down, but.
So at this point, they're requesting only 5, including the 2 that are down and the 1 that is halfway.
Which is a Norway maple.
Right,
They want to remove two more.
2 additional
trees.
standing trees, 1 of which is dead.
Okay.
And one of which has been half removed?
No.
That's
No, not-
that's
No.
that's another one, but
Okay,
it's up to, it's 5
right.
total, including that one.
I think we need to have an arborist go in.
Mhm.
I think the next step is an arborist has to go in and give us an evaluation on the trees.
Mhm.
And then if it's something we are satisfied with, maybe we live with it. If it isn't, maybe we
Yeah.
go back and ask for a complete NOI and survey.
Yeah,
I'm okay
Yeah.
with that.
I think if it's, I think if
No
it's limited to the up to 5 trees, I think that's.
Yeah,
that's
so we need an arborist to go in and find out if the trees that the 2 more trees that, or 2.5 trees that you want removed are something we would approve of.
So what they are, their condition,
Distance from
and
the
the
house and height.
danger to the house.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so no wetland delineation at the moment until.
At the moment, but then when we hear more, then we'll get back to you. We might say, look, you can't remove any more trees. That might be one possibility, right? Another possibility would be, no, I don't know. I'm after that, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll ask for
Well,
something
we
more.
might ask you to file a notice of intent.
Correct.
And then you can remove, you might be able to remove the trees, but then you'd need to mitigate.
That's right. So that may be more elaborate. But at the moment, an arborist will come back and tell us what they think of those trees.
So in the meantime, we can just keep our fingers crossed that we don't get any more wind storms and nothing happens for the 2 additional.
We have no proof that your house is in danger, okay? That's part of the problem.
I
You
understand.
have to go and get an arborist in, a certified arborist.
Yeah, we have a few contacts.
Okay.
And is that for us to get on the next meeting or in 3 weeks? Or? how
It's
do
in
we-
2 weeks.
It's in 2 weeks, yeah.
Normally they're 3 weeks, but the next one is 2 weeks.
Okay, well, thank you for your time and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And then,
One administrative approval, yeah?
yeah, 97 Minot is 2 trees right on the wetland edge. Both are within 50 feet of the house, and staff has agrees that these are potential hazards.
Okay.
It's a wooded area, shouldn't be necessary to mitigate.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
We're done.
we're done. 10 to 10. That was a long one.